That's his countdown. Well, as we say every Wednesday, the realness says the red light is on and you know what that means. But guess what? Do not adjust your cameras. It's not Wednesday, it's Tuesday. And guess what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about some letters that stand, NW, NJPW, IWGP, International Wrestling Grand Prix. You know what? Without further ado, let's just get to it. Welcome to season 2 of the Wrestling Realm Presents Championship Culture. You heard me right, season 2. I'm Brandon the Guy, and of course, I'm joined by the realness himself, the real Dwayne Allen, the one, the only, the owner, CEO. Can I call you the super producer of the Wrestling Realm Now podcast, or
if you want to, it's your show.
All right, yeah. So if you hear him every Wednesday, giving us out marching orders, giving us out questions, and we give him the answers. And we try to get the answers out of him. But you know what? Before we get into today's show, I want to remind you of a couple things. If you want to check out the realness every Wednesday on the Wrestling Realm Now podcast at 10:30 p.m., or check out all of the first 25 episodes of season 1, head over to youtube.com/the Wrestling Realm. Like I said, all 25 episodes of season 1 on there, and one bonus episode. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms, which includes Threads, X, and Facebook by using @WrestlingRealm. And don't forget, go to Instagram and you can follow Championship Culture. Once again on Instagram, Championship Culture _. See all the posts, engage in the conversation. Because trust me, when you like and subscribe, we engage and we talk about all things wrestling. You can download all of our audio content anytime just by going to Anchor, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. You can watch our Twitch channel just by going to the Wrestling Realm. Now, the NBA might be over, and I know some people are happy and some people are sad. I don't know much about the sports. I just know that it's over. But what I do know, if you wanna save some money, let those guys at the Wrestling Realm save you some money on any of your tickets for any kind of live sporting events, concerts, or any kind of, wrestling shows. Hey, you might want to go to a wrestling show. Head over to SeatGeek.com and use the promo code Wrestling Realm. It's going to save you $50 on any purchase of $20 or more. Once again, go over to SeatGeek.com, use the promo code Wrestling Realm, and let the guys at the Wrestling Realm save you $20 off of your tickets of $50 or more. And the way the ticket prices are set up, I guarantee you'll be able to use this code. Now, with that being said, realness, welcome back to your show. It's kind of like, how we had a brand split and people jump from Raw to SmackDown. At this point, I don't know if you're a Raw superstar, SmackDown superstar, or NXT superstar, because you do some double duty a lot here recently, don't you?
Konnichiwa. Watashi wa the real Dwayne desu. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
So I'm telling you are in for a treat tonight. Nobody says a Japanese wrestler better than the announcer. But when I tell you who comes a very close, if it's 1 and 1.5, it's not even 2. It is the realness. But tonight we're going to talk about a foundation, right? That kind of was doing their own thing across the waters while WWF, WCW, NWA was doing things over here, right? We're going to talk about is it safe to say this is one of your favorite promotions?
Hi.
All right. IWGP and its Heavyweight Championship. Now, when I say the Heavyweight Championship, right, if you haven't watched the wrestling round, you will know that, Dwayne is kind of expert on this. One, New Japan Strong Style, New Japan matches. He seeks them out. He's an avid watcher of this. He's an avid educator on this. So who better to have this conversation than the Realness himself? So Realness, in case the people don't know, tell them who you are.
It's like, no, I'm not.
I was like, he keeps going Japanese. I'm gonna say this is not come with subtitles.
No, like I said, I'm not about to even keep going in Japanese. You know how hard that would be. Anyways, I'm excited once again to be back on Championship Culture. See, I can't translate all that stuff into Japanese. I got all the formal stuff. I don't got the slang terminology. But yes, who else would be better to indulge in this conversation about one of my favorite world titles of all time and a championship that I, as a wrestling fan, have history in the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Straight out of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Man, I am so enthused to be in the mix of all of this right now. Now, not to mention, I know this is one of those realness takeover situations. And I know we're looking forward to all the hot takes of what I could potentially say about the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. But I promise you, in true Rum fashion, I will do my best not to be biased, but to also bring a certain level of education and depth to the conversation so that you all can be more enthused about one of my favorite and most prestigious world titles of all time in the IWGP Heavyweight Championship of the world. I went from a Japanese accent to like a faux French one.
I was just saying, you went from one part of the world to the other, but you know what? That's why you're here today, because this is a global
conversation.
This is going to be a global conversation. You know what it must be Tuesday. You know what I mean. Welcome, Prototype. Get ready for some New Japan facts, some interesting tidbits, because I'm gonna just kick the show off, right? Because if the people don't know, you're very passionate about this, right? Now, for a promotion that was founded in 1972 by none other than a wrestling icon, Anthony Inoki, a lot of people don't realize he was the founder of New Japan Pro Wrestling. But currently, inform the people who owns New Japan, because not a lot of people know who their parent company is as of now.
You said right now?
Yeah, who owns New Japan? Who's the current owner?
I think it's Bushido Road. Is it still there?
And they are who? Because not a lot of people know the parent company for this wrestling promotion is a card game company.
Yes.
Who in Japan is a huge deal. So it's kind of like if Mattel or Bandai owns
like Super Sentai.
Yes.
They make them just to sell toys. Bushido Road.
And it's crazy because this promotion has given us some of the most prestigious and some of the most glorious looking belts. But
that is the word, glorious.
But I'm gonna throw a tidbit, because I'm always gonna say this, because the title of this show is simple. If you didn't pay attention, the title of the show is Beyond the Wrestler.
Where's the graphic at? This is how do you have a show like this and you don't litter the show at the beginning with graphics?
With the graphics.
Where's the sexy Hugh graphic?
And while Hugh gets that, look who's in the comments. Hall of Famer himself. Somebody who actually has won a title over in Japan. Maybe one day we'll get that story behind it, because I said Hall of Famer for a reason. Yes, sir.
This is the man. This is the reason. I'm sorry, Brother Brandon. I'm sorry. God dang it. I got to say this. This is one of the main reasons I watched Merlin Championship Wrestling in the mid to late 90s. You kidding me? He looked like us with a black and mild and a bandana around. I said, wait a minute. We got somebody here.
And I'm going to spoil something for you. Guess what I found out? Guess what his ring gear is inspired by?
Who's that?
Tajiri.
No, but he often Ruckus often talk about a lot of his Japanese inspirations. He was even in the world of video games. Like anybody that knows Ruckus outside of professional wrestling, they know he is huge into video games and modding and stuff like that. So I mean, how appropriate that we have a professional wrestler of his status showing up for tonight's show, especially when we're talking about the influence of, first of all, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, but also just Japanese wrestling culture as a whole. I'm excited now. Now I'm on 1,000. Like Ruckus showed up. This is crazy.
You said, "Oh, wait a minute! It just got
bring the whole gang out. Where's Derek at? Is he here? Is he
right? We need Derek. Where's Derek Frazier? So this It's what Dwayne was talking about.
There it is. That's what I was waiting to say. Look at that thing.
IWGP Championship, right? That's the title. But you know, a lot of time the tagline is usually like a hint at what's to come, right? And when I
Correct.
say it gives the most prestigious looking belts, some of the glorious looking belts, but the curse, the gift and the curse at the same time is sometimes this belt goes beyond the wrestler. And
Hmm.
when I say that, I just want you to marinate on that. This is probably the only
This is my
championship.
marinating face. So people that's not watching, you don't get a chance to see my marinating face. Go ahead, Brother Rand. While you cook, I shall marinate. Go ahead.
So this company, all of their
Mhm.
belts seem to be more important than the wrestler that's holding it. You often go
Absolutely.
to that belt more than you do the wrestler that holds it. Like
Of
for
course.
instance, we talk about how Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Diesel, all of these people were main eventers when they had the Wing Eagle. We talk about how good the belt looked when such and such had it. They needed this belt because remember, and I know I'm jumping ahead of ourselves. Think about Shinsuke's first run versus
Mhm.
his third run, and we'll get into that a little bit. The
He
third
wasn't the
run
same
meant
Shinsuke. I can tell you that much.
so that's all I'm gonna say about that. But I'm gonna say let's dive into that because we've had four versions of the belt, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. We have four versions of a belt, and then a fifth version, which is a new lineage, right? And as
Correct.
you know, version one goes, and you might laugh when I say this,
Mhm.
it was in sync with the style of the time. So when you take a look at version one of the belt,
Mhm.
it's actually, it's in
Look
sync.
at this. I was waiting for this
Yeah.
part of the show. We get to look at the belts.
Belt.
Yes.
So let's break this down. It has, the typical things that I like, the globe, it has, the recognition, it has the actual acronym spelled out, it has everything that you need on a championship, and it's actually showing you, hey, this is my important belt. All gold, all bling, in tune for the time of these belts. Realness. When
Mhm.
you first see this,
Yes.
does this take you back to a certain time, or does this take you back to a certain wrestler?
It it takes me back to a certain time and a certain wrestler. Now, I say both because look at that thing. Oh my goodness. If for those who are not watching, hurry up, get to Twitter, get to YouTube because the graphics, the show is on fire. The IWG, like even that original title, you got to think about the era in which we kind of came up, in which we kind of had our hunger for professional wrestling. So we were looking for it anywhere. But you talking about the mid 90s as kids, we weren't maybe of tape trading age just yet, right? So we saw these things in flashes in magazines.
Yep.
Magazines play an important role to us being wrestling fans is because the wrestling magazine was the lifeblood of how we figured out what was going on around the world of professional wrestling outside of the WWF magazine and temporarily the WCW magazine, but Pro Wrestling Illustrated, wow, so many other illustrations. And we saw many different articles and pictures of Antonio Inoki wearing this particular championship. Right.
Hmm.
This is the championship. This was like the original. It has a very classic circle look, very modest, but yet very in your face. And I remember seeing this in the mid 90s. I'm talking maybe 97, 98-ish, when like I was like on fire for professional wrestling. And I first heard about the championship. And usually, as I do now, even as an adult, when I first hear about something, guess what happens? I go down a deeper rabbit hole. And when I go down those deeper rabbit holes, it's like, oh shoot, we got to figure this out. And then and in my research and looking things up and the internet, and we had, very archaic internet by today's standards. This is one of the few belts that around Antonio Inoki's waist and just that I've seen over the years. So this isn't the one that caught my attention the most. This wasn't the first belt I was exposed to when it comes to the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, but this is the first one that I remember seeing in like older photos from wrestling yesteryear of my fandom in the mid 90s.
And here's something I want people to understand. The WWE Championship was made in 1963, right?
Mhm.
We
Correct.
can talk about this about it, WWF Champion, WWE, whatever it was called, but that title lineage goes back to 73. The
Mhm.
IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and I'm going to say heavyweight because we're going to get to other words later on, was introduced in 1983. And it was introduced as part of a tournament that every year, that's when the title would be won, right?
Right.
And ironically, Hulk Hogan won the first tournament and he beat Who did he beat? Do you remember? Antonio
Uh,
Inoki, right?
and yep, Antonio Inoki. Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
right.
the two biggest stars in professional wrestling,
Hmm.
for
Almost like
that
the East
moment.
West meets the West, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it was crazy because this lasted. Well, the lineage of this whole belt lasted from '87 to 2001. But the crazy part is, it started off just being defended only once a year,
Correct.
and that was the format for this title. So it kind of felt like you got to beat these 10 men to get to the champion, and then you fight the champion, and if you win, you win. And I always consider this version of the belt the Antonio Inoki version because he had the most reigns with that version. He had
Mhm.
the longest reigns with the version, and he
Right.
had the shortest reign, but the shortest reign because of it was a year-long tournament that he had to get back to it. But
Right.
somebody that held the belt for 701 days back in those days was not touching what the lineage was been, but it was a big deal for New Japan, especially when
Sure.
he won it multiple years. And Hulk Hogan being only 29 when he won it, this was not the Hulk Hogan that was the Hulkster in the United States. This was probably like a young lion Hogan,
Yeah, he
right?
was. This was like, I don't want to say like, there's a fuzzy area pre Hulk Hogan Hulkamania, right?
Hmm.
And we never know the dates and time because it's really irrelevant. Not irrelevant, but it's not as important to what we know Hulk Hogan for, right? We know him
Right.
for Hulkamania. We know him for Hollywood. Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, and WCW. But I call it the awkward AWA Thunderlips era of Hulk Hogan, where like he was starting to get noticed. He was starting to become a thing, but it was like there's something there with this young guy, but he was waiting to burst forth, and this was around that era, right? So when you think about the wrestling lore of Hollywood Hulk Hogan in his younger years, you can't ignore his stint in Japan, especially where Antonio Inoki was not just the biggest star in Japan; he was arguably one of the biggest stars around the world. Because and you got to think about the time period. You had rival promotions going on. You had All Japan Pro Wrestling on one side. You had New Japan Pro Wrestling on another side. You have a lot of stuff in between, and then you had these big, like you say, East versus West mega matches to kind of expose the Japanese audience and the American audience. And you've heard nothing but great things from a lot of professional wrestlers that didn't really cut their teeth in the States, but they cut their teeth in Japan. And this is a
Hmm.
part of that era.
They made
So
a
it's
name for that stuff.
absolutely. And think about it. How many wrestlers do we talk about that have nothing to do with WWF or WCW during those days? Like, why the heck do we know about Bruiser Brody? Why do we know about guys like Stan Hansen and so on and so forth? We're not going to dive into that whole diatribe of New Japan. But when you start where you said we started, right? Antonio Inoki, Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan, like it was a big deal. And this was right before like Hogan was about to just take the world by
Take
storm.
off
Before
before he was about to
sports
become.
entertainment was about to rewrite what professional wrestling is today.
And I'm gonna just address this comment before we move on. The most beautiful world championship ever was V4 specifically, in my humble opinion.
Of course.
Prototype. Hold on to that. We're gonna pin that comment because we're gonna come back to that because we're on version one. And trust me, brother, you're gonna want to hear what we got in store when we get to that. And here's my favorite part of the night. Who from four sides of the ring is this? Let's see. Is it my favorite Brandy Savage? Is it Dwayne's unofficial favorite, Knit Ram? And I forgot who's his favorite. I think Marcus is his favorite. I can't remember. But anyway, I wonder who it is. Oh, well, look, there's my favorite. He said, well, it's not me because he signed into the comments himself. Uh-oh, is Dwayne frozen? I think he might be frozen, ladies and gentlemen. But I just want to say good evening, everybody. Yeah, he definitely froze. Um, but please leave me a comment. Which version of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship is your favorite? So, oh, there's Marcus. Here, your favorite is in the building. Um, I think he's frozen completely. And if you can hear me, Prototype, just give me a thumbs up because I see the comments are coming in. Prototype, yep. We're gonna wait for his Wi-Fi to reboot. But while we're doing that, put in the comments which version is your favorite. Marcus, good evening, brother. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Brandy Savage. Good evening. Um, yes. Oh, he said hello to Marcus. So we got some four sides of the ring participating. So it looks like we're running solo right now. So the crazy part is, once we finished with version one, we were introduced to a version two of this belt. Version two of the belt was a unique take not necessarily an upgrade, but a whole different variation of it. When you think about version 2, I believe it was around 87 is when it was starting to be introduced. And this belt is what the IWGP women's belt is actually based upon. You see a lot of the similarities through this through the IWGP women's belt when they introduced it. And when that belt was introduced, it took a lot of homage from this. Of course, they put the stars on the side to pay homage to stardom. But this belt took a different direction. It gave us the crown on the side. It gave us this whole almost like starburst side plates. And the focal point of it was still it had International Wrestling Grand Prix. It had IWGP in the middle. Dome is a little bit smaller, but it really felt like a crown. And I know it's a lot of things, and I wish Ben Walker was here to explain what the Triple Crown is. But I will tell you this: if you want to have some interesting tidbits about that, this belt became almost a bit of controversy. And when I say controversy, because it didn't last that long because we decided to transition to version 3. Now, version 3, I actually own, and as much as I love it and hate it at the same time, because I just can't get past the design of it. And this is when we definitely just said, nope, we're going to go with something totally different. Within this belt, of course, on the side plates are the past winners. Each side plate has all the past winners that have held the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. It has the globe at the top. I don't know if you can see it at the top. It has the 6 rubies on each side, the black rivets on built into the belt, and the center plate. It kind of takes a nod from the American-made belts. If you can see, I'm sorry, my light is glaring. You can see that it has the eagle on the top, stones at the tip point of them. There we go. Stones at the tip, more stones there, and now around IWGP, we get red stones around the circle. I don't know if you can see that. So it's interesting because this is the belt that a lot of people saw on mainstream thanks to TNA. And we saw it because it was during the time when Kurt Angle won the title. But to understand why he won the title, I'm going to kind of wait for realness to get back in because I know he was a TNA fan just like me. And I just want to address what Martin said. Oh, we got 3 members of the 4th side. There's the 5th side of the ring from 4 sides of the ring. Mr. Nitround. Yes, he said the one Kitty held. That's version 4. We're going to get to that one. Don't worry. Doesn't have repeat winners on it or just a winner once. So on this one, it only has the once, but it has, and I'll give you an example, like it has the time frame that they wanted. The etching, because this is made after market, the etching, and I'll post pictures later on, it has the dates that they wanted. So like for instance, when Vader had it multiple times, it actually has that he had it 4/24, 9/18, and then 1/17. So if you get the official replica has it a lot cleaner, and it actually has each person in all of their reigns on it. Because a lot of times, and this is where Dwayne might have to fact check me, when you had the world title match, they always played a vignette before to show all the previous winners.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
This is ridiculous. I missed stuff. I signed in like 3 times. I saw 3 or 4 belts. You got to run it back. Sorry, y'all. The show can go long today. Like I'm on.
I know the comments are on fire because.
Well, guess what? The comments run those graphics back. I didn't see them.
Well, I moved up. We on 3.
No. So, back to 2. Go back to 2. I have a story about 2. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we got. I'm gonna pause the comments for a second, guys. We're gonna get back to that.
Pause the goddamn comments.
Rewind to part 2. Rewind to part 2. What say ye about 2? Because you know I had some questions for you.
Okay, good. This is the first championship that I was exposed to when I saw the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Can you guess where I first saw this championship at?
On Shinsuke Nakamura?
No,
or Brock Lesnar?
I saw it with Scott Norton.
Oh.
Scott Norton in WCW. You got to remember, that was the first time I heard anything about the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
I forgot about that.
On American television. It's because Scott Norton, WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling had that working partnership. You know,
Yep.
they talk about the inspiration from the NWO came from a storyline in New Japan, and
That was in
they
'98,
had
correct?
that's correct, I believe so,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it had to be '98, and they had a New Japan. I mean, had an NWO like East, and the Great Muta would come over and he would do his part, and then and Kaz Kayashi. That's where we had Sonny Ono. Sonny Ono ultimate, like he was how we had Conan for the Hispanic and the Luchas orchestrated. He was the one for the Japanese wrestlers. And I remember Scott Norton one day come to the ring and they made the announcement he's the IWGP World Champion. And I was like, what is that? What does that even mean? And they said New Japan Pro Wrestling, whatever the case may be. And I went to do some digging and I was like, wait a minute. And I remember seeing this thing.
Try to search who it is.
That's exactly what I did. I was playing maybe a year later, I was playing Tekken 3. And my favorite character on Tekken 3 was always King, because King is a wrestler. And I was like, man, and one time I drew him in my notebook and I drew him with the IWGP championship that I saw on WCW. So yeah, I had to get that out. That's why I was like, nope, I was trying to get situated and I was like, bro, I'm not going away from this time. We got to go back. So this is the very first IWGP World Heavyweight Championship that I've ever been exposed to, that I saw like personally. Like I'm on TV, like, yo, what is this? So had to get that
it's
out.
crazy because I was starting to get into 3 because 3 is surrounded with some controversy, right? But I'm gonna address these.
I wasn't missing nothing.
These comments.
The complications be god danged.
I love.
Hold on. What do you say? Hold on. He liked what version?
He liked the AJ Styles version. Oh, I didn't even realize you had a phenomenal. Okay,
I was pointing to it the entire time before the intro. I had to switch my camera out to the FaceTime camera. But we're gonna do something a little bit different today, so I'm just gonna stay with this.
Of course, he loves the side play. I'm surprised he didn't say nothing about the tip. Prototype. He says Kurt was the OG belt collector in TNA. I remember he had 4 belts at one time. We're going to dive into that.
Was.
Trust and behold, we about to, because this is what I mean, the controversy. Where did you rank the IWGP as far as it being a prestigious title? It is top 5. So that's a loaded question there, my good brother.
What do you mean? Is it top 5? Oh, of all time?
Yeah.
What's loaded about
4.
Yeah. Hold on.
Because
is
with
version? Virgin? Or is he saying just the the championship itself? Not the belt, but the actual championship.
See, now this is why I say you and Marcus are the same person. Marcus is generally the host of 4 Sides of the Ring.
You thought
he comes up with these questions. He comes up with these questions to make you think. And that's why I said which version. But if you just talking about the IWGP, as like you would say, the big goal, no matter which version, then I'm gonna agree. Yes, it would be top 5. Yes,
absolutely,
definitely top 5. And I think that if you can rank them, I would say probably 3. I would probably say 3.
No doubt.
Number 3 out of 5. Yeah.
Okay, so
I wouldn't put it as number 5. I would put it as number 1.
And my everybody has a story voice. Which one is number 2?
We almost had a V4. The way you don't backtrack.
No. It's not happening. Nope. Now, I really can't tell if it's me that's out or if it's Brandon that's gone out. No, we're definitely not at V4. We are at V3. But as Brother Brandon makes his way in, before we can get to V4, everybody knows that the version 4 IWGP World Heavyweight Championship is the most glorious IWGP World Championship that ever came to life. But there was some very controversial spaces before we get to version 3. Now we got to think about the time period in which the IWGP version 3 came to fruition. We got into a space where TNA had a working partnership with, you guessed it, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now this is an era where New Japan and TNA were trying to fight for real estate. Maybe not amongst each other, but the WWE was commercially doing pretty well right now. This is, we're hitting the ruthless aggression era. Ruthless aggression era. And we had to figure out, okay, cool. You had major stars on both sides. You had a lot going on. Hey, Brother Brandon, welcome back. I didn't know if it was me or you this time. So I was like, I paused for a second and say, well, let me just keep going just in case. So are you good?
Yeah. All right. So
Okay.
were you talking about the
No.
controversy?
Yeah, we were getting into the time period. I was kind of setting the table for the audience, right? I was
Okay.
talking about, you got to remember the time period and what was about to happen when we talk about version 3. It's because version 3 was became it was developed during an era of professional wrestling where things were starting to change, right? I was saying previously that TNA Wrestling had a working partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling. TNA Wrestling
Mhm.
had a show that was an internet show. This is pre people actually putting their content on YouTube professionally. But it was online. A show called TNA Explosion. And
Oh yeah.
a lot of times New Japan's young lions will come to the States and do these excursions. Now, if you don't know or you're not familiar with what that means in the terms of professional wrestling as it relates to the land of the rising sun and or Japan. What it is young lions are wrestlers that don't have gimmicks. They pay their dues, they work. A lot of times you can see them at the sides of the rings with tracksuits on. They usually wrestle in black trunks, white boots, or black boots, and then they go on an excursion, which means they leave Japan, they go to the States, they work with a
Different
collaborating promotion,
promotions.
and then they come back with a new gimmick. Now the gimmicks they develop in the States don't necessarily always translate back to when they return to New Japan Pro Wrestling, but this is what it's for. And TNA Explosion was that house for a lot of these Japanese wrestlers. Now, some of our favorites showed up at TNA Explosion. Okada, Shinsuke, and Hiroshi Tanahashi all were, made
One of
appearances
them
on
looked like
TNA
Kato
Explosion.
from. He looked like Kato from the Green Hornet, but we're not going to talk about
That was Okada's gimmick, which was very shameful and slightly racist. But yeah, so this was a time period where WWE was hitting this stride and TNA was trying to make a dent, and so was New Japan. Everyone was in rebuild mode, right? WWE was rebuilding with John Cena era, Batista, Randy Orton, that whole that was their thing.
Edge, all of that. Yep.
Yeah, that was the ruthless aggression. Was like, let's get this started. And TNA was doing the same thing. They had a lot of vets. They had Kurt Angle getting the second run. They had Kevin Nash. They had, I just say, go ahead and say the whole main event mafia, right? And then you had New Japan that was like, we got to build new stars. You know what I mean? They were fresh on those heels of let's really take this global. So that brings us to what we're about to talk about today, brother Brandon. So that's I set the table so people know what was going on during this time period of the subject which we about to dance upon.
And I can tell you, we almost to version 4. We almost there. Trust me, Martin. We almost going to get there, but we got to talk about version 3 because it's a pivotal part of history. And I don't know if you saw what H to the A to the S to the T, H to the A to the S to the T to the H to the E to the 3 to the R to the D said. He wasn't expecting you to say Scott Dorton. Neither was I. Oh, I stand corrected. That's Channel.
The riddles in a goddamn show.
That's Channel. So, Channel, you answered the hard-hitting questions. All right. Breaking news.
Since Forsyth is here, let's start another argument about Trick Williams since they decided to jump into the show. Because they started off their show hot last week.
Channel, you got to say sauce and thanks for him. But this is some breaking news. I'll be wearing your shirt on 7/6 when I break the record and have my 150th match at the ECW.
Wow, that's a big deal.
And on that notion, you're going to get a new shirt for that one because I don't know if anybody has seen Ruckus's match lately. He's been rocking a championship culture shirt to the ring and in the match.
Where's the applause button?
Yeah, he's been rocking the championship culture shirt. Yeah, and it matches his ring gear. Imagine that.
Wow.
Hey, can you guess what color it is?
I don't know. Black, red, green.
Bingo. We love the support. Thank you, sir. I just want to catch up to the comments because now we're going to get to. So he was saying the championship itself. So hopefully we answered your question. Channel that is the championship and the prototype. We thought we were through that era. We're in a new era. Remember, we shouldn't even. Yeah, and then of course Hugh got me because I'm so excited about getting to this controversy. I don't know what to do with myself.
Let's do it.
So now, yeah. So 7/6. I'm going to figure out how to get to Philly. At this point, we might have to hit championship culture, hits the road. 4 sides of the ring, you hear that? We might have to go to Philly. Did someone say Trick Williams? Oh, you got him started.
See, I knew it.
You knew what button to push.
Listen,
you knew what button to push.
Mouthing off with Mike was on the show, and they literally said they like Trick Williams is the weakest NXT champion compared to everybody. I was like, oh, they cracked over the can of worms. The show didn't even start yet. I'm sorry.
Yes, I was like, oh, they about to go in. That and trios belts. But here's the thing that I wanted people to know. In 2006, at the height of like TNA, Brock Lesnar had left WWE. He went to go find himself, essentially, right? he became the
Find a
New
paycheck.
Japan. Yeah, yep. He became
He
the New
said a yep.
Japan Heavyweight Champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in a dispute, of course, because he said they owed him money, he left. Ironically, he left there and went to Antonio Inoki's new company and was wrestling there with the title. Let me put the title on my shoulder so everybody
Mm-hmm.
know with this said belt. So somehow,
Mm-hmm.
some way, Kurt Angle
That was the
got to
prelude.
wrestle him. Yeah, Kurt Angle got to wrestle him and won this title from him. Meanwhile, over in New Japan itself, Shinsuke was rocking version 2 as their champion.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a thing where now, how do you have two people running around with two different versions of the same title, but one
Mind you,
wrestled in one promotion as a champion?
they were still saying that Brock Lesnar was still technically under contract with WWE and he didn't care. Yeah.
That was a wrinkle. And then,
Yeah.
And
Oh, that Brock Lesnar.
oh, that Brock Lesnar. And with Shinsuke Nakamura and finally unified them because during that time when Kurt Angle had this, the X Division, the tag team belts, and the world title for TNA because he beat Samoa Joe in a winner take all, which I still don't understand how one person is a tag team champion. But we're not going to rag on TNA. We're going to celebrate all of their highs and not their lows. Because then they duplicated that
Yeah.
again with Bobby Lashley, but Bobby Lashley beat every single person to get the King of the Mountain, the X Division, the what was the other one? The belt I gave to Hugh. What's the oh man, I can't think of the name of it. The other one.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me out. What's that belt called? But he beat everybody for that belt and held all of them. But now we had this version.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of the name. I'm really drawing a blank. But now Shinsuke is holding the belt and he's considered the unified champion, right?
Correct.
When this belt, all of that story being told and all the stuff happening, we seeing it on TNA.
Mm-hmm.
Did this devalue or did it bring more eyes to the product?
I'm going to say it definitely brought more eyes to the product. It's because it's not like I was watching New Japan at the time, but I do remember that whole era of all that stuff going down, and it sparked my interest. But that's when New Japan, anything that happens with New Japan, something always sparks off, and it makes me go, "Hey, let me go see what's going on over there." And then you're like, "Oh, wait a minute, I didn't know this was going on. Oh, I didn't realize they were over here. Wait a minute." And that's happened 2 or 3 times with me, as I've been obsessed with New Japan over the years, time in and time out. And this was one of those moments. It's because even Kurt Angle's Expedition of Gold, we saw the pictures. It was news when Brock Lesnar was doing what he was doing, right? It was news when Brock Lesnar showed up. It was news like we saw him in the ring with Tanahashi. We saw him in the ring with Shinsuke. And then when Shinsuke became kind of, the undisputed, like it was like a domino effect, a trickle effect. It's kind of like in television. You know how you have a lead-in show where if we have WWE SmackDown, but we want to see, we want you to watch whatever comes on before SmackDown, and we're gonna watch whatever comes on after SmackDown. So we're putting purpose shows on purpose. It's because we know you might catch you might turn there early and like what you see, and after SmackDown, whatever comes on afterwards, you might like what you see afterwards, and that's kind of how it was. And that's when we first saw Shinsuke Nakamura. And I was like, I didn't know who any of these guys were, but I became familiar with who they were real quick based off all this controversy and confusion that was going on at the time.
Now, I want to ask the people in the comments a question, and we're going to give real this answer too.
Mm-hmm.
With all of this going on with the belt, do you think that this would have been a bigger deal during this social media era? Like if social media is the way it was now, back then, would this have been a bigger deal?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? It would.
How so? What do you think would have happened?
Well, first of all, Brock Lesnar was massive, right? He was a household name. And when you have household names and people have not seen you for a while and they find out you're somewhere else, it blows up. Social media brought the world closer together, and then of course the content separates everybody, but the fact that everybody came closer together, wrestling fans would have easily gravitated towards a new product that people probably weren't familiar with just to see what he was doing. Because think about it, Brock Lesnar looked completely different. He had a new look. He had different color gear. And it was like, well, what is he doing? Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, dude, what does he got going on? And even when Kurt Angle had it, You know what I mean? Once again, I checked. I was an avid website checker. Like day after pay-per-view, day after a show, I went to WWE.com, TNAWrestling.com, see what's going on. Those photos were plastered ever. Now imagine if we got that stuff in real time. Imagine if we got that stuff when it actually happened. As wrestling fans, it would have been a buzz, and we would have naturally gravitated towards what was going on even more quickly rather than hearing it after the fact, and not waiting until, like I said, you had to sneak and watch it on Daily Motion, or you were really plugged into what was going on, or a Facebook group, or so on and so forth. But like social media brings everything to you like that. And I think that's one of the things, because it was a house. It's like CM Punk. CM Punk was gone for a decade plus, or whatever you want to call it. And that's just how it was. You know what I mean? And it's like you would have never known that he was gone, because the fans kept his name and his stuff alive. So imagine we're in an era where someone like as huge as Brock Lesnar did something. He was a world champion, or he has to drop a title, or he's leaving, or he has the belt and defending it in a rival promotion, and all that crazy foolishness. It would have been front and center for wrestling Twitter.
And so the reason I asked that, because that would have propelled one person's career, and he probably would have been a bigger deal than he was. Because go back to the time we had Kurt Angle left WWE, bigger star in TNA, right? Brock Lesnar left
Right.
WWE, big star in New Japan. We had a ROH wrestler who was making a name for himself in TNA. But remember, he was in ROH during the time there was no TV deal. It was more or less pay-per-view or go see it, right? I think if
Right.
we would have had social media, Samoa Joe would have been bigger. He would have been probably the biggest name, because he's taken on the Kurt Angle. He's been busting his back for TNA, and he's the one that they say, this is the dream match that all us diehard wrestling fans that knew what Samoa Joe could do, but now we're giving him a platform. Hence why I asked that question. So
Sure.
would you have been okay if Samoa Joe would have been the one with all the belts and not Kurt Angle?
No.
Why so?
It's because at that time, Samoa Joe wasn't a household name. He was a household name in the wrestling community, but during that era, wrestling wasn't a household anything. Kurt Angle was, right? You talk about, one of my favorite examples is when Kevin Nash returned to WWE, or he showed up at the Rumble, pitch black hair and Diesel. They asked him like, "Dang, Kevin Nash, where you been at? You look good. Why haven't you been wrestling all this time? Like, you still got it." And he's like, "I have. I've been in TNA for the last, however how many years he's been over there." And it just shows you how small the microcosm of the wrestling community really is. And it was very niche. Like, if you weren't a part of the community, you didn't know what was going on. But if you saw him, if you heard his name, that's Kurt Angle. What is he doing? That's how we just talked about Ruckus. That's how I started watching Maryland Championship Wrestling. I was flipping channels and I seen Jerry King Lawler. I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, wrestling was wrestling during those times. You had to take whatever you got. I even watched the Golden Age of wrestling, just because it was wrestling. So you flip through something and you see Jerry Lawler power dropping somebody holding it. It's MCW. I'm like, do we got wrestling here? Like, what's this Maryland Championship Wrestling? And it didn't matter what it was. But that's how it happens though. When a familiar face, and this is, Jerry Lawler was always running indie shows while he was doing while he was on commentary. So like while they're traveling and doing towns and house shows, Jerry Lawler was hitting the indies and showing up for TV. It was no different with Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was a familiar face. He was still a big name. He's probably he was their highest paid player in TNA. And I know it is because Brock Lesnar offered to come over to TNA. He said, "Well, I'll come over there if they pay me what they paying you." And they were like, "Bro, they can't afford to pay us both."
I was gonna say,
you know what I mean? So it's like Kurt Angle was the biggest star in WWE, highest paid before he left. And he was the biggest star. Like Cena was coming, but he wasn't there yet. But he arguably, and then he was the biggest star in TNA. He was still a big deal, even in this area. So even if you did not watch TNA wrestling, you knew who the heck Kurt Angle was, and it was going to take you back to a different space.
Yep.
So you know what I mean? It's no disrespect to Samoa Joe, but Samoa Joe was up and coming. So him versus Kurt Angle's legacy is a tough battle that he just wasn't going to win.
So as opposed to the question, Channel said 1,000% the internet would have helped this feud. It would have been a huge deal, and social media was around back then. The visibility would have been massive.
Big time. Yep.
And Martin says, only good thing about pre-social media era is that it was all word of mouth news, so people were shocked about different stuff at different times, and you got to experience knowing something before someone else. And
Sure.
like Hollywood
Mhm.
always says, we would trade off tapes. Oh
Yep.
man, wait till you watch this, or just tell me, just tell me, just tell me. And it was
Mhm.
always somebody's take on what happened. Oh, wait till you see this match. And then like if I watch it, I'm like, this wasn't what he said. Oh, wait a minute, maybe he meant something else. But it was all about somebody's experience. And
Right.
and speaking of experiences, one of the first things that I remember with New Japan is seeing that beautiful title. I was like, it was different because it's not an oval shape. And I'm gonna just bring it back on screen. The reason I was holding it like that, it's
Mhm.
not oval like most belts that we have seen. It's not like the NWA title. It's actually
Very
got
unique.
a awkward shape to it. It has the
Mhm.
champion banner at the bottom, and now as opposed to version 2 and 1, it actually has stacked
Right.
IWGP on it. Sorry, I'm trying to hold it so the light's not hitting it. And it has dual plated. The patterns
Mhm.
all behind it. Everything about this belt seemed like a big, massive upgrade, right? Even to Hugh's
Mhm.
favorite part. But in 2008,
Hughes' favorite
in
part.
two,
You heard that, brother Hugh?
Hugh's favorite part. Yep, his favorite part. And I'm gonna start with his favorite part of this one. Because in 2008, we were introduced to probably the most prestigious belt, the probably best looking belt in wrestling history. AEW was coming close. TNA said, "Let's get to it." Right? Oh, we got to pause. Willie
Nah.
Wood is. I'm sorry, Willie Wood is not in the building. D Willie is in the building. D Willie,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen,
D
has
Willie
joined the
was
chat.
cracking Drew.
And then here,
I knew.
so you knew it was coming. So the famous part of this,
I'm
and
not saying that.
this is not a replica. This is a aftermarket one because the true replicas have two gold tips on both sides, and they have the engraving on the opposite side with the number because they only make a certain amount so many years, and they
Right.
make sure that they
You
have
heard
it
that,
that
brother
way.
Hugh?
But mhm. So just like before, now we get this belt, right? Let me go on the
There it
side.
is. Where's first of all, you guys are not doing this right. Dude's supposed to be like some triumphant music, like and it just this kingly royal music should have just played. The minute the belt should have risen up to the screen. And it should have been in
But
slow motion, like you doing it in slow motion, not like a graphical effect. Just you look at that thing.
they're like, but look how the light is catching it. That
That's
tells you the dual plate, everything about it from the tip of the belt with the lion having the red dots in his eyes, the two on the
that was
side
so
going
childish.
towards it. Yes, and of course the lion head is representative of the logo of New Japan Pro Wrestling. They kept a lot of the same similarities, the dual plated, but now IWGP is silver and not gold as in the previous one because now it sticks out because of the gold. I'm sorry, the gold globe behind it. Dual
Mhm.
plating again as the basis of the plate, kind of what AEW has taken from their belt, how this part is silver and this part is gold.
Right.
Now we have different color stones. We have the banners. We have rivets inside of the stone so that way they can actually stand out more. All of
Mhm.
the side plates have updated with people who held it, same rivets on the side. Everything about this belt said, look at me, I'm the most important thing. And when I tell you I'm the most important thing, I'm the most important thing on your TV, whether I'm in the first match, tag team match, no matter what I'm doing, right? This belt was
Let's
a true
freaking talk about it.
upgrade. Yep.
Yeah.
And the time that this belt debuted,
Mhm.
it blew every other belt out the water. The wing
Facts.
eagle,
This is going
the big gold
spinner
looked like it
era.
was a yeah, it looked like it was a bad belt. It was like, wait a minute, that's your champion, and you want me to look at the big gold, the wing eagle, the spinner, the big gold, the TNA belt, the I'm trying to think, NWA world title, ROH
Mhm.
belt at the time was the Kevin Steen one, right? The one with the eagle on the side, the
It
black and
depends.
red logo one,
What
right?
year we talking?
2008.
I don't think it was that early. No, it was like it was
Was
right
it
when
still silver?
Sinclair had bought Ring of Honor. Yeah, because you
So
got
it
to
was
remember
still the
Davey Richards
silver.
had it last before
Okay,
they switched over with Kevin Owens and Kevin Steen was
Kevin Owens.
so that was got to be
Gotcha.
like 11, 11.
Okay,
It got to be
so
10 or
they
11
still had the
when that
silver.
happened. So it was yeah,
It was still the silver era. But this
it was
belt,
yeah.
just on anybody's shoulders around their waist, it looks like a big
Mhm.
deal, right?
It was
So
massive. Yes, it was. Yep.
it's safe to say this was an upgrade.
I think you said why it was an upgrade. Of course, it's more. It was first of all, it's more than an upgrade. It
Okay.
was hands and feet levels above every other championship. That particular championship silhouette, the design itself, had stood the test of time, and it immediately put itself in the history of the greatest looking world championships of all time. Not only did
I
it
feel like I should
have
be holding up while you're talking.
a
Sorry.
I mean, it will be good for the fans to see, because I'm going to say all these great things about it, and they can kind of visualize it as I tell this story. Look at that thing.
I'm trying not to let the
It
light
is
hit it.
no, it's cool. It is either way. It's this version of the IW is, first of all, once again, it goes back to what I talked about before. You got to talk about the era. You got to put stuff in perspective. Although this belt debuted, like I said, 2008ish, that's when it was like when there's New Japan was turning the corner. New Star comes stars. You know what I mean? It wasn't about Brock Lesnar coming to town, about Shin, it was about Angle TNA, coming to town. It wasn't, we're fresh off the heels of Giant Bernardo. You guys knew him as Ten or as Albert, or just good old fashioned Matt Bloom. For the Good Brothers, they call him Baldo. It's not my place. So you gotta remember, this era marked the turning point of New Japan. Like, all those guys they said we're gonna our boat to were like bona fide superstars at this point. Hiroshi Tanahashi had turned that corner. The ace of New Japan was just at a different level. Shinsuke Nakamura was at a different level. Katsuhiro Shibata, before he left and tried to do MMA and come back, he was the third guy they were supposed to hitch that wagon to for New Japan. So like this is like, this championship also represents the Renaissance era of New Japan, like about to become a global product. And I mean global product, like it was a destination for a lot of fans that were going across the water for their professional wrestling, and just the Japanese thing. Like more and more fans, and you got to remember that WWE was getting to we call it the stale era, where everything was kind of rinse and repeat. You kind of knew what was going down, and it was refreshing to see that championship, and then everything that followed with that championship, and who held it, and what was going on during that time, and the AJ Styles Bullet Club era that just took that championship to the stratosphere. That era by itself was one of the, to me, one of the turning points that really made New Japan Pro Wrestling a global front and center wrestling promotion that fans are like, I got to see what's going on here. That time period caused me to go down. Like, I started watching old stuff, you know what I mean, during that era. And it's just like I said, AJ Styles won that championship his first night there. You know what I mean? Well, he debuted, and his first major match, it was bam, he won that championship. And you got to remember, AJ Styles was fresh off the TNA stink. The only time that we saw him in Japan previously was at a smaller promotion, was Wrestle One, right?
Yep.
He was wrestling Seiya Sanada, who's now ironically in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But Seiya Sanada was at that time, Wrestle One had the working partnership with TNA. So Seiya Sanada was in TNA for a little bit, and then he went back. But AJ Styles was on his way out, and he was doing his thing with Nick Aldis, and nobody knew what
Magnus
AJ.
at the time.
Yeah, Magnus, and that whole Dixie Carter angle. Nobody knew what was going on. So when he showed, we were all looking for what the heck AJ Styles was going to do. And then, so the minute he showed up in New Japan, we went with him, and it didn't matter where he ended up, because I watched everything with his name attached to it. I was looking for AJ Styles content, and when he showed up in New Japan, we were like, wait a minute, what do we got going on over here? And what the heck is this Bullet Club thing going on? Like, when I saw the Bullet Club, I thought it was just a tag team. I thought it was just Anderson and Gallows, because when I first saw them at Wrestle Kingdom, the first one I saw was like Wrestle Kingdom, I think 8 or whatever it was. And they didn't have the iconic Bullet Club logo at the time. They still had the original logo, the first logo. It wasn't.
He was just wearing a mask.
Yeah,
and that little black mask with the white on it. It looked like skulls.
It looked like a little it was like a military thing. Like, it was like military bullets going across, and it wasn't the iconic, logo just yet. But then by the time he got there, I was like, wait a minute, it just took on a life of its own. So that championship is not just about the look of the championship. It represents so much, not only its lineage and who held it and the title defenses. That's a whole different conversation for a whole nother show. But just it literally marks the turning point of New Japan really going from a Japanese promotion of yesteryear to getting back to that global scene where they said, no, we are a player in this world, and it's not just in the WWE, because at the time the New Japan was the second biggest promotion in the world. Like, you had TNA, but TNA was very small. It was very limited, and WWE was running roughshod. Ring of Honor was coming up, but there was no other global promotion in the States that was like a number two, like we have in AEW.
Getting close.
Yeah, but everybody was fighting. But like I said, New Japan had turned that corner. They when you creating superstars, when girls are going crazy over you and you're on commercials and you're everything, that's when you know, like, okay, we've got real estate to work with. And guess what? All those people that came behind that moment, ever since 2008, have all been megastars in the world of professional wrestling today. A lot of those independent superstars, a lot of those global superstars have touched that belt, have won those championships, have even been in bouts in competition for that title. And look what they're all doing now. So it's a true testament to where it comes from, what it's attached to, the era that it represents, and the turning point. So it's so loaded. And not to mention, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like, look at that.
It is. And it's crazy because you could tell they tried something different with version 3. They weren't too sure with version 4 because they introduced the IWGP Intercontinental title. And it was a black strap, bronze plates, right? Didn't look very clean.
But MVP
didn't look good at all. Yep. And then Shinsuke held this 3 times before he went after the Intercontinental title. And he's the one that debuted the white belt. What did they do? They did exactly what Drew Williams said. He agreed with your comment about rinse and repeat. They literally rinsed and repeat this version and made you can't see it, the IWGP Intercontinental. But they did the biggest.
Yep, that's his cousin. They're cousins.
Yep. It's like it's almost like the cool cousin of the group, right? But then they also went and said, and this is an honorable mention, they said, well, since it worked, give the juniors theirs too. So
there you go. Yep.
They literally just said the
go.
junior heavyweight, and here you go. It's all silver. They went back to the gold motif here for IWGP. And at the top, it stopped protruding as flat. It doesn't stick out as much. And on the sides, instead of the rivets, it had just the lion logo. And it's, oh man, look who's joined the conversation. I had to stop. Uncle Ben is here. The Ichiban man himself. Oh, it's about to get real. Uncle Ben, I'm gonna call him that because funny story. I think I told it before. The first time he was on Championship Culture, he was like, "Is that your uncle?" And I was like, "No, that's Ben from what you call it." He's like, "Oh, okay." But back to this version, right? So we knew that this was so prestigious, right? And then we had smaller version, Intercontinental title copied, not so much for the U.S. title, but this belt lasted the longest out of all of the different versions, right?
Yes.
Let's say this, and I want people in the comments, and I'm glad Ben's here. Here it comes. You ready? Realness. We need your top 5 wrestlers to hold version 4, and I want to hear what the people are going to say. And it's going to tell me something when we get to version 5. Trust me. Who are your top 5 wrestlers to hold?
Do they have to be in order? Do they have to be in order? Do they have to be in order? Like they have to be from like 5 to 1 or just?
No, any particular order. Right. It doesn't mean that the first one you say is your favorite or your least favorite. So anybody in the comments, especially you, Ben, let's hear your top 5.
Hiroshi Tanahashi. Obviously, Kazuchika Okada. Shinsuke Nakamura. AJ Styles. And Jay White.
Interesting.
That's it. That's 5. You know how easy that was? Do you know how easy that was? That was a layup.
I do know. And it was crazy because you talked about all the people that had rivalries that defined this belt. If it wasn't for AJ coming in winning it from Tanahashi, right? And then Okada beating AJ in that 5-star match. I'm not going to go beyond 5-star. I'm just say 5-star, right?
Meltzer.
Then, I'm not going to do that. But then Naito got it from Okada. Okada lost it to Kenny Omega, but Okada was on his 2-year run it was like 700 odd days that he had been champion. Okada had figured out who he was, what he was about. He took New Japan, put it on his back, and said, "I'm the man." And that run for those 2 years, because remember,
in the midst of John Cena, Randy Orton running the because I'm referring to Shinsuke Nakamura and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Like they were it. And then Nakamura came into the mix. I mean, and then Okada. And then he was like, him and Seth Rollins had a similar rise together. Like I was always comparing those two, like, oh yeah, they're both up next before Rollins got hurt. But Okada was it. Like he beat both of those guys. And at some point, I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off and just go in on this, but good. I mean, that era was crazy. It's because they all were like mega stars and they all was under the same roof. Shinsuke was ridiculous. He had his own fan base. Tanahashi is the ace of New Japan. That's not just a title. That's legitimate. Like at any point in time, he can hold any title. And then in a situation like that, you say, how do you break through when you got these two megastars? Because think about that era in WWE, that would have never happened. If your name wasn't John Cena, Randy Orton, whoever came up behind them, you were always lost in the sauce. So if you weren't as big as a CM Punk, it didn't matter who held that World Heavyweight Championship. You would never there was no bit. Your name wasn't on the marquee. It was Randy Orton. It was John Cena, and then insert Edge, maybe not only the more. Insert Jeff Hardy. You know what I mean? Triple H always had his space.
Sometimes Undertaker for nostalgia pot.
If he had his moment, that's just what it was. But like during that era, it was. I'm telling you, like you go back and watch it, you like, man, these guys are all on the same roof at the same time. And Okada was it. Like he was Okada versus Tanahashi. Like you talking about the ultimate passing of the torch. That was to me that was like a landmark foundation to New Japan's like this modern era of them, and it was for that championship, and to me that was what the thing that really took them to the next level.
And it's crazy because when Okada lost it to Omega, it was a 2 out of 3 falls match, and I think that was the match that made Kenny Omega.
A main event superstar. Are you kidding me?
It made him. It made Kenny Omega.
It definitely made him.
And Ben actually threw out a good fact that only 3 wrestlers held version 3. I was hoping somebody was going to pick up on that because
it's very short lived.
Yep, and it was surrounded with so much controversy. But Dwayne, do me a favor. Say the names as you say them so well. This has Ben's top 5.
Shinsuke Nakamura, Kazuchika Okada, AJ Styles, Hiroshi Tanahashi. See, that's how you know you watch the Japanese version, not the Kevin Kelly and Steve Corino dub version. I'm like, nah, bro, give me the. I want all the Japanese commentary. I will literally watch it. I watch all the Japanese commentary. Like it's not the same to me. I never liked it when they did the dub. I said no, because I first saw it with the Japanese commentary, and that's how I'm used to. They call the wrestling different. Like if most wrestlers talk about when you watch the product, there's certain parts of the match where it's dead silent, but it's a cultural thing out of respect for certain parts of the match. But then you hear these other random parts of the match where you hear girls screaming and people cheering at a certain point. It's because the Japanese culture, there's a natural sense of courteous behavior that just goes with their culture, period. So like you might be out there and you're looking for a pop and wait for the audience to go crazy, but at certain parts of the match is going to be quiet. In the commentary, if you're listening, it kind of leads you and kind of like strangely understand what's going on, even though you may not fully grasp the language. But it's like the way they call their matches, it helps you go along with the storytelling in the ring. You're like, oh, okay, I get what's going on. I don't understand what they're saying, but their tone of their voices and how they're stopping, how they're projected, and then you kind of know where these climaxes come. Have you ever watched the end of it? You know when you come into a finish of a Japanese match because everything is really, really, really hype, and the commentators take you on a ride. You like this watching, like waiting for something crazy to happen, and like it like, really.
Oh my God, the third Rainmaker! You're like, Rainmaker!
You're like, oh, okay, it's getting crazy. So yeah, man, it's just that's like even like I said, when the way the announcers announce the names, man, the AJ Styles, Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Did you see the prototypes? Top 5: AJ, Okada.
What did you say? He said AJ
Styles. He only gave us 4.
Yeah, I mean,
he only gave us 4. Give us 4 more.
Oh yeah, he didn't give us 5. Yeah,
and then of course,
give us 1 more.
Chad said no love for evil. No,
we knew once now. The crazy part is we used to see Watanabe all the time because when he did his excursion, he was always at Ring of Honor. He was always at Ring of Honor. What the nubby? Yeah, and then he shows up dressed like the Grim Reaper. I'm like, oh come on, this is the gimmick you come back to Japan with? Evil.
Now I'm not for sure this, but I'm gonna go with you with this one, channel. I believe that he did whole version 2. Realness or Uncle Ben, can you let us know if that's true? Because I know that one of the two of them would know. Because I'm not for sure. I want to tell you the wrong thing.
See, that
And
was doing young realness. I wasn't paying attention that much.
yeah,
Verse 2, sheesh.
yeah, okay. Oh well, they're having a what you call a
Uh-oh.
conversation.
See,
You feel the mood and the match flow with the commentary.
that's the
So
truth,
you
and that's the
know,
truth, though. That is the
if you
absolute
know
truth.
if Ben was on, he would probably have on his Ichiban shirt. He would have on his
Mhm.
hat. He probably would have the full mask on, and he would have his and
Wow.
he would be doing this to you. He would be doing this the whole time on camera until you until you were ready. Yeah. So see, I knew it. Yeah. So there you go. There's your answer. Thanks, Ben. Um, Ben with Championship Belt Brothers over on Facebook
Mhm,
and Championship Figure Brothers. So if you need to know anything
mhm.
about a championship belt or figures, check them out, and then you can check them out on Bells and Belts pretty often too. So trust me. Ben, drop some of your links in the comments. We'll put it on the screen, or I'll just tell them go back and watch season 1 and season 2 of Championship Culture, where we talk about network logos and some other stuff. But I think the network logo was a
Mm.
very good conversation. But we're gonna get back to IWGP. See, I tried to go back. All right, so I think we can
No, that
agree.
was a good transition. It's a good job, brother.
Yep.
Mhm.
Version 4. Beautiful.
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome
Yes.
belt.
Yes.
Beyond belief.
All that and
Probably
more.
the best looking
Mhm.
belt, right? Now, not the most recognizable, because we know
Absolutely.
the Big Gold is the most recognizable because Big Gold versus the World told
Sure.
us some
We
things
had that
about that.
conversation now, didn't we?
We had that conversation, but
Mhm.
we're saying the most. And me being a belt guy, AEW World title is
Yeah.
close to it, but because that belt, the AEW World title has elements from that belt, it's never going to be as prestigious to me because all these other
Can I ask
belts
you a
have
quick question?
taken. Yes.
Can I have a quick, since you mentioned belt, it is a belt show, so it seems appropriate. Is the way that AEW has been booked, is it affecting how you're viewing the belt? Now, I asked that question because this is championship culture, and you have done shows, you've had commentaries, we've done quite a few things that explain. Is it the championship that makes it prestigious? Is it the person that holds it? It's the story. Now, we just talked about version 4 of this IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, this International World Grand Prix Championship. And we talked about not only the design, but the moments and the revolutions and turning the corner and the rivalries that attach to that makes us love it that much more. Is your feeling towards the AEW World Championship slightly going down just because of how maybe diluted the championship has become just in AEW's trial and error period? I'm not even going to bash it, but just because they're still trying to figure it out. Has it affected that? Because, and I say it's all in line with the show, is because like you said, we see elements of version 4 and the way that the Japanese designers for the IWGP titles have been incorporated in AEW, which shows that Tony Khan has a broad mind for professional wrestling. No, not to mention he saw the Painmaker, your boy Chris Jericho, and Kenny Omega and Okada go at it in New Japan, which gave him the confidence to say, yo, maybe we can really do this. But is it affecting how you feel about that championship? Yes, no, maybe so.
So
Dun dun dun.
I'm gonna say yes
Yep, say it.
because
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
the title of the show is Beyond the
Mm-hmm.
Wrestler, right?
Beyond the
So
wrestler.
this belt the AEW World title has not superseded the wrestler, and it has failed to make the wrestler either.
Okay.
Because when
Yeah,
Brian H.
kind of.
Waters / Hollywood made the comment that he would put the AEW
Good.
champion in the same boat with the NXT champion, it kind of put it in perspective that this is a world champion, whereas though MLW treats their world champion
Mhm.
like this. Um, TNA,
Sure.
depending on who's holding it, treats their champion, and it always is
Mhm.
a. Think about what TNA did. They have taken people who wouldn't be world champions.
With
Steve
Moose, your favorite
Macklin.
wrestler?
Um,
Moose?
I didn't say Moose. I
Moose, your
said
favorite
like
wrestler?
Steve Macklin. Um,
And Moose,
Josh
one of your favorite
Alexander.
wrestlers?
Josh Alexander.
And Moose, one of your favorite wrestlers?
Alex Shelley. Chris Sabin. Um,
Moose,
what's his name?
Moose,
James Storm.
Moose.
All of these guys
Not
that
Moose, though.
when they
Not Moose.
held the belt, it felt like a big
Not
deal, right?
about
With
Moose. Is he not
AEW,
a
it
big deal?
hasn't felt like with AEW, it hasn't felt like nobody. He's trying, guys.
Almost had him. There it is.
With AEW, I feel like, yes, Jericho was the first champion, great.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't care that Jericho was the first champion because his career is horrible. I feel like the belt had the look to be prestigious. Yeah, I feel like
yes,
we're gonna call it what it is. The belt would carry the look itself if you had enough to back it up. There hasn't been one feud that I'm gonna go back and rewatch that say this is a defining moment for this belt, like we're doing with. And even though it's only been 5 years, I should still be able to tell somebody, you gotta go check out AEW, go look at this match. You gotta go check out AEW, go look at that match. I'm gonna tell somebody, go search Shinsuke Nakamura IWGP. Not gonna have a bad match. Yep. Just like I said for the United States title. Kenny Omega, Jay White, hands down. Until Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. Then I'm saying you may want to go look at that one first, then Jay White and Kenny Omega. But I feel like that belt has not lived beyond the wrestler. Yeah, it hasn't got beyond the wrestler.
See, that's what people need. They need to know these things.
And it's crazy because so New Japan had like an unwritten rule versus written rule that you couldn't be a dual champion. If you were this champion, you stayed there as in the world champion, the Intercontinental champion. They did it sometimes with like the 6-man tag and the tag team champion, but when you were the world champion, you could not be Intercontinental champion specifically. But one of the, I don't want to call him a pillar, but one of the staples of New Japan said, I'm gonna challenge that and I'm gonna do this, whether it was a storyline or not. It started to make some things look interesting, right? Mm-hmm. So when Naito was like, no, I'm gonna do both.
Mr. Disrespectful. Right? Yeah. Hold on, I gotta lose. It's the Naito.
But and it was crazy because he won both titles. Mm-hmm. Then Evil had it for a spell, and then it started. There's my Evil shout out, right? But then Naito got it back. But then Kota Ibushi was like, hey, y'all forgot about me? Hey, I'm here. Yeah. Watch what I do.
I thought he was up next, to be honest with you, Kota Ibushi.
But he kept going, but it was like, it felt like he never got to it.
Was in the same area. That him and Naito were like right here together. And like I said, and then Katsuya to Shibuya, he came back and he, but it was,
So we kind of had, we had a situation happen, right? You said breakaway.
We had a situation.
Because in March of 2021, they unified the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, and it became the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So what they did was said for the past 73 people that held it, all these different reigns, we kind of going to pause that because now we have a world champion. And I'm big on the name of the title, right? So we went from IWGP Heavyweight, IWGP Intercontinental, and now we merged them together and we said, now we're going to have an IWGP World Champion, right? So, and it came because, all of these things happened, but Ibushi won. It was at Wrestle Kingdom. And he expressed that he basically wanted to unify the titles. Well, I'm always nervous when they about to introduce them. I'm always nervous. And they didn't make me any less nervous because if from version 3 we upgraded to version 4. Version 4 had that long reign. It had that prestigious reign. Right. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not gonna belabor this point. But no matter what they changed his belt to, it was destined to fail.
You're absolutely right. You were absolutely right. 1,000%.
You could have inverted the colors, made it a little bit bigger. You could have said we're going to add. How TNA went from the Dwayne favorite belt to the other one, the one right after it. Yeah, Dwayne belt. That's how I call it. TNA's Wing Eagle. Yeah, TNA's Wing Eagle to the ginormous long belt because that belt had like 27 plates on it. It was like
13 plates on it.
It was like, it's an upgrade, but the other one looked more like a world champion.
That one took some time to grow on me, but shout out to Bobby Roode.
But you get what I'm saying? Like it was, this belt was doomed to fail. And just to forewarn everybody, I modified mine a little bit because I said I got to do something different. But when it debuted to so much every reaction isn't a good reaction. All press isn't
Mhm.
good press, and
Right.
all eyes on your product don't always mean that they're good eyes.
Right. Especially for the
And
wrong
the
reasons.
version, yeah, the version I'm talking about is
You have
version
that?
5.
How'd you get that?
I've had this for a while. I just
Are
keep it
you
off to the
sure?
side. I'm positive
I
because
don't
I
know if you had that.
modified it. Now,
Oh, okay,
I
okay,
put it,
okay.
and the only
Is
thing
it
I did was I added jewels. I
is
don't know
that
if you
is
can
that
see.
the I see the jewels. They look
Yeah,
like
I
a
added
crown.
jewels around it. Yeah, I added jewels
Is
around it because I thought that would help. Because I really hate when belts look like they should have jewels in certain places and they don't. So
oh, his
I
brother, he would
added
tell you a big
jewels.
red stone.
Yeah, I added jewels all around the side. So on the
Okay.
actual belt, there is no stones around here. It's empty. But I added them all around, except for so on all the IWGP belts, one thing that's similar is that they have the colored stones on them. Usually it's green,
Sure.
red, blue, and
Mhm.
clear. And with the stones, they're usually in certain orders on each belt. I've been trying to figure out what's the order, but it was oddly specific that on this belt, the red stone was at the very top. I'm sorry, when you look at it, the red stone was at the top corner and the blue was at the bottom, and
Right.
then the clear was on both sides. And
Okay.
now they have the globes in the center, whereas though on previous ones, the globes were at the tip and at the top portion of it. But I was thinking about adding stones onto the side, but I don't have that much patience. But definitely had, they took away the jewels in the eye, which was
Mhm.
a complete downgrade. They went back to a gold lettering, but it's silver. Oh, I'm sorry. It's silver behind it. The wing tips for the bird or whatever is just understood that these are wings. But is this part of the line coming out? What is this part? It's too
Hmm.
much confusion because we got the red stone here, none on the
Right.
eyes, blue stones, um, red, blue, white, and I think it's a green one somewhere in the front. I can't remember, but I remember seeing that, so I was like, it was very underwhelming. It was
Yeah.
so,
Is that the
it
actual
was.
size of the championships? Please tell me it's not. Like that's just the way the
So,
belt maker misunderstood something. Uh-oh.
so
I might have cracked
Ben
open the can of
Walker
worms.
can confirm this is about the average size of those
No,
belts.
cut it out.
Uh huh. And I was thinking about getting one made oversized
I
just
would definitely
because
get it
I feel
oversized
like,
just for this. That's how it's supposed to
well,
be.
but when you look at it, look how Moxley is carrying it versus everything else, right?
I don't Moxley
So,
shouldn't have it. He shouldn't. Oh no. I saw Raw last night. I saw listen, listen. You guys got to remember, man, it's like Joe Hendry. If you speak of his name, he will appear. You guys are cracking open a can of worms. Leave him alone. Oh no.
so back to what I was saying. Ben will verify if he's still in the comments. This is
Right.
about the size. Like I was checking the size, I'm like, it's a smaller belt, and that's why I said it was doomed to fail when
I
they
have
said there was
a
nothing
very
wrong.
important
Like,
question for you.
yes,
No, go ahead. I want you to finish first, but I'm like, as you finish
all right.
and you like break it
So
down,
I'm
because this is
thinking,
what you do in championship culture. I have a very important question, and it's a very political question, and I know it's not something you usually dig into, but like I said, this is wrestling rum type material. We got to dig deeper. We got to get people thinking, and and it might make me feel better about this championship. I doubt it, but I'm trying to be unbiased because this is your show. This is championship culture. You don't show up to championship culture if you don't come correct. Okay, so I'm trying to do that, but go ahead and continue. But I want you to know before you try to you tiptoe through it. I want you to know I have a very specific question I have to ask you. But go
did
ahead,
you write it
continue.
down? Okay.
No, I don't have to write
So
that. I have it's fresh. I got it.
so we know the history of the big gold, right? We did a whole big gold versus the world.
Correct.
And I often say, whatever big gold you want is probably not the one that you order
Mhm.
because you're not for sure which one you like.
Right.
So in that instance, with that thought pattern, if they can keep, if there's nothing wrong with it, somebody just wanted to add a little something to it, whether it be a
Sure.
raised crown, whether it be a nameplate that's removable, whether it's a nameplate with a design around it, whether it's a WWF logo, it's not as a little circle. It was
Right.
always that design worked. Version 4 worked, and version 4 worked for all these specific reasons, just like the big gold worked.
Correct.
Just like we went
Absolutely.
from 3 to 4, like we went from the wing eagle to the big eagle, a
Mhm.
natural progression. Does this feel like it was a downgrade?
Absolutely. Do I feel like it was a downgrade? I mean, look at the thing. You go from like it's like you said, at some point when you upgrade anything, it's supposed to look like an upgrade. It's not supposed to be. Imagine we got the Winged Eagle. We had it since 1988. In 1997, they decided we're going to go with the new championship, and they make it smaller. They made it bigger.
Now, you mean if we had the big eagle and said,
it was the big eagle. It was massive. It was massive. It was, and to me, it rivaled WCW's big gold at that time. Like it's an iconic championship in its own right. It's worth having its own show. The IWGP World Heavyweight Championship version 4, it's worth having its own show. And then you give us that. But it may be due to something that happened very specifically. And I want to know if one, do you agree with it? And two, does it affect what we got? And I have another question.
Now, can we address these comments?
Go ahead.
Hugh, you're lying. Go check your video. Go check your video.
I'm gonna check the video.
Go check your video. And Chano, this is why you're not my favorite. And Brady Savage, that's why Brady Savage is my favorite, and not Chano from 4 sides of the ring. Thank you, Uncle Ben, for agreeing. It's not a big belt at all.
Well, you could look at it and tell, like out of everything you got behind it, you got tag titles that's bigger than that thing. Look at those WWE penny and nickel and dime belts is bigger than that thing, and that's supposed to be a world championship.
But remember at Forbidden Door when Jay White had this, and then who was the U.S. champion? Was it Will Ospreay was next to him? The U.S. title looked like a world title as compared to this.
You used to always say that. You say I can't tell which one's the world championship when I see it.
Mm-hmm. And just because it's gold doesn't mean it's going to make me say, if you had a choice between, here's a belt, like the side plates, I think are perfect what they did because, trying to put people's name on it can become, a daunting task. But if this center plate would have just been wider and just bigger to match the side plates, I probably wouldn't have such an issue with it, right? And it looks like it's like dropping a masterpiece of an album and then following up with just okay.
It reminds me of this.
We're gonna keep this. You're gonna keep and say you're my favorite Brandon outside of myself.
Wow.
So he's gonna break kayfabe. Brandy Savage's real name is Brandon, and when I found out, I said, "Wow, we met another Brandon."
Did you think that was gonna be
I thought it was Chano. Wait a minute, wasn't Chano responding to 4 sides of the ring at one point?
You're getting worked. So you guys called on Uncle Howdy, and now all kind of stuff happened. We had technical difficulties. You don't know who's talking to you now. This is crazy.
Okay, Marcus. Okay, I'm confused, but maybe one's doing it for one. I'm going to have to go back and look. But Prototype says, Hugh, there's a comment for you. All you. That's all you. And
he doesn't want to say it out loud.
No, Marcus says it looks more like a secondary title than it does.
It really does.
A main title. If it would have been all silver or all gold, I'd probably be like, yep.
No.
That's there in the Cardinal title.
You're making it worse. I'm trying to be positive and be unbiased, but the level of disappointment that's brewing in me right now as you can go through the comments.
Yes. 4 sides of the ring.
Okay, there
on Twitter's channel. Yeah, okay. Because we only saw I gotta pay attention to the logo on it.
See, you're paranoid because you guys want to call on Uncle Howdy. We're gonna talk about Uncle Howdy tomorrow. That's pretty much the subject of the show. So if I spoiled it and everybody wants a copy, go get your money because it's gonna be buzzing.
First off, let me give you.
You don't know who you're talking to.
I was on the phone with you at 9:55, and I was holding my breath because I said they better not. They better not do it. They better not. So, yep. So we're gonna and this is for you. I'm gonna just put this up there. That's for you. That's for you. I was about to say his real name. I don't know. Prototype. Can we say your real name on here? Prototype. That was for you because you said no Diddy, and press play was Diddy's album. Because I told Hugh one day, he said pause. I said no, don't pause it. Play. Go ahead, go with it.
Play.
So we broke him. So back to this. It seems like everybody is. Did he say, yeah, no problem. So wait for it. This is why we can't do a show together. So it looks like in the comments they all agree this was a massive downgrade. Now, Realness was going to make a point that's probably going to have me feel like I'm about to be interrogated on championship culture.
Yeah, it's
okay.
We talk about these championships and we talk about these eras, right? We talked about this review because I know we got to wrap up soon. We talked about when I first saw version 2. That was an era. That was during the mid 90s. That was WCW's partnership with New Japan, NWO, Jazz, right?
Oops, sorry. This. Right.
There we go.
This
Yes.
version.
We talk about that era. That's when, and then we talk about version 4 and how much that was an era. Even the awkwardness of version 3, that was an era, right? We get to version 5, and there was something that's been going on lately, or between the eras of version 4 and version 5. New Japan has come under different leadership in the midst of all of this, right? And I'm saying to myself, do you think that the constant change in leadership for New Japan, it seems like they just got a new president every 2 years or so? I don't know. I mean, don't quote me on it, but it seems like they always get a new president, someone that's running the show. Like, I believe now Hiroshi Tanahashi is officially the president, which I think is an excellent move. But it seems like every time they got a new president, every time something changed with ownership, with Bushido ruled, or somebody that was moved in and out, whatever executives and the powers that be that run New Japan Pro Wrestling and Bushido ruled, it seems like I think that was going on when we got this championship. Do you feel that the change in leadership probably led to the championship design looking this way, or do you feel like it was already headed in this direction? Because to me, there's no way in the world you can go from the championships that we had prior, and they were designed that way specifically for a reason. It wasn't about just what's hot. Because if you look at the championship on your shoulder versus the championship that was previous to that, there's something missing, right? The previous 2 championships, version 3, version 4, had all the names of the, previous winners and stuff like that. And like, it seemed like that part was highlighted on purpose. It was meant to be there. It was like a trophy. Like, you see a plaque, you see everybody's names on it, and you hang it up. It's like a trophy. But then we got this championship, and it seemed like that was drastically different. Like, versus one person of leadership felt it's important to continue to let those who've held this championship, let their legacy continue on, because whoever holds championship, your name is on that belt. Of course you can't see it, but it's symbolic. It's a trophy. It's something that's special. Then you have that championship that's drastically different. There's no previous elements of it. There's no think about the winged eagle and the big eagle. The big eagle was the evolution of the winged eagle. They could have went in a completely different direction, different design. Yes, they're 2 different looking belts, but the focus of it is pretty much the same. Winged eagle, you got a bigger winged eagle. You know what I mean? When you go from version 3 and 4, they look related. And then you get version 5, you're like, I see elements, but I'm not sure who the daddy is. You know what I mean? So do you think that the political structure of New Japan's leadership has anything to do with that championship that we got versus what we had before? Do you think it was somebody just wanted to change the championship because they wanted to usher in a new era? Do you feel like they wanted to do something like, you know what I mean? Do you think that the politics of the leadership of the company had anything to do with that version of the championship that we end up getting, which I like to affectionately call the Jay White title?
I'm gonna say yes, because if you look at New Japan Strong,
there
is no
all their belts are not
razzle dazzle with it. Yeah, it's just
ugly, by the way.
It's black, blue, and purple, right?
And they say New Japan Strong in really big words.
Yep, and that's it. There's no razzle dazzle to it. Then you look
generic
at
toy belts that come with generic wrestlers at the bootleg spots. Sorry, I had to get it off my
come with
chest.
a wrestler with a yes. But then
there
you
go.
look
Just
at
random belt, New Japan Strong titles. Sorry.
Yep. The New Japan Strong title. I'm sorry, not the.
You're not going to make
Japan
it. You're trying not to laugh.
You're
trying not to laugh, and he can't get his words out, ladies and gentlemen.
The television title.
I like to have fun with
the square.
Okay.
The square one. That just has words on it.
That is the ugliest championship
that New
Japan has ever been associated with.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody took an iPad and put New Japan Strong on it and put a brown
so here you go.
strap around it and gave it to Zack Sabre Jr. And for some reason, he thinks it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Here, get this over. Oh, you can hear it. Take this on your indie run. All right, give it back. Give it back. We want it back now. But then they gave us this, and it was like, okay. But they kind of restored my faith in their belt making when they came up with the Dolph Ziggler belt, the global title. So it was like, okay.
Belts by Dan.
Yep. They're trying to go back to that, and it looks like it's a perfect secondary title.
Still
but in a secondary title world where you got rid of both of your, nothing was wrong with your Intercontinental and your US, or if you would have said, let me merge those two together and come up with the global title. But I think that it was truly a test. Oh, sorry. Oh, I think it was truly a test of a matter of who's in charge and what their vision looks like because they X'd off the names because this is technically a new championship. It's the
Sure.
IWGP World Heavyweight Championship and not just the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that.
Yeah, but
Nobody knows that.
that was the who says world. They're trying to stake their claim, but now they're kind of like
Who's they?
slowly erasing that.
Right.
They're trying to erase it and just say, "Oh, it's still just the lineage goes all the way back." But it's so crazy because I hope that they realize. So let me back up. New Japan, you could tell they have
Mhm.
prestigious belt because this company only produced replicas 1 out of 170. They charge 1,500, 2,000, $3,000 for their official replicas, and
Right.
they can do that and sell out, have a demand for them because people want that belt. No matter how many makers or how good your maker is, it's still not an official replica. Just like the
Sure.
AEW title, everybody
Yeah.
has an official AEW replica that said that is the best belt they have ever had, but AEW is not. I can't go online and just click it and say I want that now, like I can WWE World Heavyweight Championship or the
Sure.
what you call it. But ROH even figured it out at one point. It was like, oh, we can produce belts. We know how that goes. Maybe at a later time we can
Yeah. And
discuss.
then they got sued
But
and they had to change all their belts.
so I
Yes.
think
I'm
that
offended by that because I love those championships.
yeah,
I see one of those belts behind you. Sorry.
yes, you know
I'm waving
that's
to
some
it.
of my favorite looks can be
High Ring
deceiving.
of Honor champion belt
Um,
behind Brandon. Tag team champion. Hi. I wish you were still around. I'm speaking to the belt behind
you
you. So if
sure?
people
Because
don't know
you know,
what's going on.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
there it
seeing
is.
like I'm talking about that one. See, look what's up there.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
look at that.
even so, it's just like
No, that's okay. You can keep that one.
no, that one. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
you
that
can
one
keep
up
it.
there.
Yeah. Nah, you
I
can
know.
keep
You
that
know
one.
how looks can be deceiving. Remember that?
Sure.
Season
Yeah.
one of Championship Culture.
There you go. That's a throwback. Season 1, buddy.
Go back and watch looks can be deceiving from Championship Culture season one. Interesting show. Which we might have to do a part two because this
I'm almost
looks
sure you have to do a
definitely can
part
be
2.
deceiving. Yeah, because
Sure.
this makes you feel like this is not. If I gave a casual wrestling fan this is it, yeah, this is a world title, they'd be like, whose toy title is that? Whose kid
Yeah.
title is that? That's not the world championship.
It's
Um,
not, it doesn't scream world champion. Only around Jay
yeah,
White's waist. Everything else is like, when Okada put that on compared, I said, this is not it, man. This is
mm-mm.
not it. You
It's
remember that brief period where they brought back the version 4?
like 3 minutes, and then they said, "No, man, we just wanted to see how you was gonna react."
Yeah, it was like a replacement for like the I forgot what championship was missing or something happened to it. They was like, oh well, I'll bring this back just as a placeholder
Just for
for it.
the
And everybody was like, oh, they're bringing it back. They're like, no, it's like,
everybody.
no, it's
So,
like, you're like, oh, geez, okay,
and of
never mind.
course, now y'all talk about me. He's gonna do an unboxing maybe
Wow.
tonight. Um, Uncle Ben, text me when you do that so I can go on live and harass you while you're doing it because I
Can I
like to
ask you
see his
another question about
unboxing.
the global championship?
Yes.
If they would have debuted that, but bigger, like the same size as version 4, instead of that Street Fighter Bison logo championship, is what I call it.
Oh, the Bison logo.
If you go back and watch the Street Fighter movie and look at the Bison logo everywhere, you would see New Japan's championship belt on everybody's like crest of their uniforms. That is a fact. Go watch it. I think it's on Tubi for free. But if they debuted the global championship as the new world, that's right, I said it. If they debuted the new global championship, the size of version 4, black strap, instead of that championship, would you feel much better about version 5 instead of the Go Bison championship on your shoulder right now?
Yes, because it looks like it's a new belt for a new era, but it still have elements of what we like
It
previously.
still looks better than
Because
what you have on your shoulder right now.
because Ben actually has a black strap of the Intercontinental belt, and that looked
Mhm.
like that could have been the world champion. So imagine the
Got it.
IWGP Intercontinental
Oh, okay,
title on
yeah,
a black
sure,
strap. It looked like so. It's like
true.
I want to say does the strap matter season one of Championship Culture, but in
Another
this case,
throwback.
it would. It would. We just got a whole bunch of callbacks, don't we? Uh, that's
Listen,
interesting.
listen,
Didn't
it's
plan
a lot
that
of
one.
advertising going on. I'm okay with
Yes.
it.
Trying to tell people to go to youtube.com/the wrestling realm and look at the playlist for Championship Caller championship culture, all 25 episodes of season one, which we referenced all night. This is what happened when you take over a show. See what
And
happened?
listen, and don't neglect the bonus episode. This holiday special. Brother Hugh, you remember the holiday special?
He might not be paying attention. Let's hope
It
he's
was a
moving
special.
something at this point.
It was a
He
special.
might
It
be.
was a special unboxing.
Yes, and let's hope he's doing something. He's not paying attention. But back to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
The global title. I'm sorry. We got to address this comment.
You're all over. You're all over the place. Would you trade all of your New Japan belts for one of those 2000? Oh boy.
All of your New Japan belts for that? Absolutely.
No, you would not.
I would.
Because I don't think those New
My
Japan
New Japan
belts
ones.
are accurate sized. They look smaller than usual.
This one,
I
I'm
looked.
almost sure. But you know what? I want you to pull up the measurements for the actual version 4. You will be surprised how small that belt is.
Now,
a lot of makers make it oversized.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe that's what it is. It looks oversized when Tanahashi wears it around his waist. So that's the one I want.
Well, he's smaller. Yeah, he's smaller.
Brother Corey, my kicks, my fix, he took a picture of it. And I saw it, like, I've been looking for the right belt maker to make that championship the way I want it, not the way it is, the way I want it. And like when I see it, I'll know what I want. And he held one. He has a picture holding one. And I said, I need that one that he has in his hand. And I asked him, and I said, yo, where did you get that from? And he's like, oh, this is not even mine. So he's like, a buddy of mine had it. And he wanted it at a raffle at an indie show or somewhere. He was somewhere. And he was like, he was just there. And he let me, I never saw it. So I took a picture with it. And I was like, dang it. I said, I wish I knew where, and I don't know if that was the official replica or they got it from a belt maker. But when I saw that one, to me, it looked the most accurate to the championship that I was a fan of, you know, AJ and Tanahashi, Shinsuke, Okada. And I was like, if I could ever, but you know, you go on eBay and everywhere else just to see what's out there. And it's just like, and even like I said, even the replica they were selling from New Japan, I'm not paying $2,000 for that. I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? And even then, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would like to get another one made, but I want it oversized. I want it at least the size of the Big Gold.
Big Gold, absolutely.
Like, this is probably the size of the Wing Eagle, but because I feel like it would scream at you.
There you
because
go.
You know my United States one, the IWGP United States belts, they're massive, but everybody that held it, it's massive. That was a huge belt.
Right.
And I don't know, it's because they just said, nope, go bigger. You know how Triple H will say if people need more metal. I swear they said they just want to go bigger. But
there you go.
Yeah, that was a good take on that global belt, sir. So, you ready for your last question, sir?
Yes, version 6. Would I do they want me to design version 6 of that championship? I'll be more than honored to have them people call my people. I reach out to my lawyer. He's in New York, he's busy, but we can make it happen. And I'm honored that you felt like I was good enough to design version 6. Yes, I will. I accept. That wasn't the question. No. Okay, no. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, that was not the question. I apologize. I jumped the gun. Go ahead,
I can't wait for your notes tomorrow. Are you gonna have notes tomorrow?
Yeah, of course. Am I going to have notes? Does the air have birds?
So real. Does
the air have birds? That's the best I came up with. Though. I said, does the air have birds?
That was the air have birds. Okay, I'll turn it off.
Yes.
Get me? Air have...
Because I didn't nearly get into half the comments I want to make because, like I said, I'm long-winded, so we'll be here for another hour and a half.
Oh no! You know what? Let's do this. So I'm going to transition to the one part of the show that I love the most. Right? This is called. But I feel like
no music playing with that? Like it's got to be some type of like Jeopardy jingle or something to go along with it.
Okay.
Like Wheel of Fortune ding ding song or something like ding ding something. I don't know.
Okay.
Like Emelina's going to debut. Remember Emelina? Yep, I went there.
Yeah, you did.
No, acknowledge her because that's one of your favorite wrestlers.
So every belt has a story. What stories would you like to tell centered around the IWGP belts?
Oh wow. I think one of the
while
funniest
he's doing that, I would like to hear y'all stories about the IWGP belt.
One of the funniest ones, I photoshopped myself wearing a belt for advertising one time. I had a Bullet Club shirt. I couldn't find I need a new Bullet Club shirt. And we were advertising something at the time. I think Brian H was already in Connecticut at the time, and I was going to Flex on doing something, and I wore Bullet Club Because at that time, I wore like the AJ Styles gloves. I had the AJ Styles gloves, the tee, Bullet Club tee, and I photoshopped a picture of the IWGP World Championship around my waist when I took the photo. That was pretty cool. But let me see. If any real stories, man, it's there are not any stories about me having the belt or owning the belt, but I will
But do you
say
notice how
that
many people are coming into the that's watching us? And feel free in the comments if you got questions for realness or questions for the guy.
yeah, by all
Feel free
means,
to
if you got
post them.
anything, say the word.
Post them.
Yeah,
Just post them.
yeah.
We would
If you got
love
any
to answer.
questions, yeah, no, come on, you kidding me? Answer questions. That's what I do. But the IWGP, I remember in 2014, well, that was a crazy year, right? We were transitioning. It was, I call it the year of the indies now, where like all the indie superstars were getting recognition. NXT was about to blow up. Sammy had gone over. Kevin Owens had just signed. Well, not just signed, but you know, that era, that class was just coming in. Dusty's era, Dusty's
The
kid
Dusty Kids.
era. And yeah, like that whole generation was starting to was about to kick in. And I remember seeing the IWGP Championship around the waist of AJ Styles, and I remember saying to myself, like, this is what a world champion is supposed to look like. I end up watching more New Japan during that era than ever I've ever watched. You know what I mean? And I remember saying to myself, why the heck is this called the IWGP World Championship? Why does New Japan not have their
Does
own
New
New Japan
Japan
World
have a
title?
yeah?
Like it says International World Grand Prix, and I was like, man, it's really cool but really unique. But I mean, that championship changed my outlook on professional wrestling. In 2015, I went on hiatus. I said I'm done with WWE. I think around the time Roman won the Rumble, around the time Rey Mysterio got booed out, and we were craving for Daniel Bryan. This is the year of the, like I said, this is the indie superstar era. Like we wanted Daniel Bryan, and they weren't giving us to him. He was half hurt. He wasn't hurt. He was, you know, and they were giving us Roman, and we were like, bro, this is not what we signed up for. And I remember there was a dude, there were these two guys in the Facebook group back in the day, the Wrestling Room Facebook group, and they were arguing with people. Now, back in those days, I was more of a vigilante. This is now we've moved into 2015. So if anybody got bullied or they were arguing, I would jump in and be like, oh, we're not doing this. And these two dudes, man, they were always in the Facebook group just going off and bashing people, but they were always talking about New Japan, New Japan, New Japan. I was like, what the heck? And this one dude, he was so obsessed with Forever Hooligans, Rocky Romero, and who was the other guy? Was it Alexander Kozlov? Am I tripping?
Was it?
Is that his name?
I feel like you might be right.
Okay, so that he was obsessed with Forever Hooligans. Oh my goodness, he just kept talking about their New Japan, and I was like, and I checked him one day, and out because he got into an argument, him and his buddy, and they got in an argument with somebody in the group, and I was like, ho, y'all not about to come in here, and you know me being Batman for no reason. Like y'all not about to come in here and act a fool and be telling people and bashing, because I'm always up for a good argument, good debate. And they kind of clapped back. It's like, man, you just saying it because you WWE guys, like we all got our own opinions. Like, what's the problem? And I was like, all right, fair. Let me back off, because I figured maybe they were just being trolls, but they really weren't though. They just were fed up with what they were watching, and they were huge fans of New Japan. And I will find it. Since you saying New Japan is so great, where should I start? And they said, go watch Wrestle Kingdom 8. It's on YouTube. And this is a couple years ago. So let me go back and watch this. And I go back and I watch Wrestle Kingdom 8, and I'm blown away. And I was like, wait a minute. Like I said, I saw the Bullet Club for the first time. I think, wait a minute, that's Festus. That's Doc Gallows. He was him in Carlinus for the first time. I saw Tanahashi for the first time. I saw Okada. Like I seen Shelton Benjamin was on the show. There was so much that was going on, and I was like, yo, wait a goddamn minute. I'm missing so much that's going on around the world. And then I tuned back into WWE. Of course, we watched it every week because we took what they gave us. And after a while, I was like, bro, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going. I wanted a WWE hiatus. I was like, screw this. I'm not watching this crap anymore. There was no second company. I wasn't rocking with TNA. I went to New Japan, and I just began to dig, and I went back to 2008. I dug up Tensai stuff, Giant Bernardo. I dug up everything Tanahashi did. I dug up, and we talking about all the way up to the point where eventually AJ Styles shows up. He's the IWGP champ, Bullet Club this, Finn Balor that, Prince Devitt. I was like, all this has been going on. I had no idea about the Tokyo. Like I
I've
wasn't.
missed so much.
Yes, and that's exactly how I felt. And that championship ushered in for me just this renaissance of Japanese culture in my life, because Japanese culture has influenced a number of different areas in my life, not just one. And and I just, like I said, I started fiending for Japanese content on YouTube. I would go on these. There's so much now, but back, a couple of years ago, you could barely find anything. And the Japanese wrestling was no different. I was on Daily Motion when the G1 climax tournament, got underway. I was going back watching so much content. I got familiar with Tama Tonga. I got familiar with so many. I remember I was like, wait a minute, Yuji Nagata still wrestles? What's going on? Hiroki Goto still wrestling. It was all these things, and I was just enamored. But it started with that championship, version 4. When I saw that championship around AJ Styles' belt, around his waist, Bullet Club, guns up, just gang looking NWO style. I was like, this looks familiar. There it is. He found the photo.
Of course.
That was the photo that I had. Like I said, the one I had before, I photoshopped like literally the IWGP Championship around my waist. That's perfect. This was that era. Like that picture shows who first of all, I look the same. That's a compliment to me. But I was a little skinnier. I'll get there again. It's okay. But that was my era. Like that area, I was like full blown Bullet Club. Everything changed, and New Japan wasn't storyline based, right? It was competition based, and then storylines evolved from the competition. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it was always fun. It will always have a footnote in my life as a professional wrestling fan. It's always fun to go back to those moments. I've tried to capture so much of those moments through DVDs. Like I said, the partnership between Ring of Honor and New Japan during that time was absolutely phenomenal. Those global wars, those War of the Worlds, like I said, were better cards than the first All In. I was not in. First of all, All In, they stole my idea, because I remember talking to Brian. They said they should do like some type of independent WrestleMania. I said, but I'm sure they probably can't because of the politics of it all. And then they did it. And then later we got AEW. But when I saw War of the Worlds and Global Wars, I mean, some of those cards are ridiculous. And I'm like, you look who was on those shows. Like, and they're all major players in the WWE right now and AEW. I was like, yo, I've seen better shows than All In. And it's because of that partnership. It was a perfect storm for what I saw. And that championship,
it set the stage for it.
That championship is the bookmark of that period in my life, which is so special as a wrestling fan to me, which is why it's like, I have to get that championship at some point. It's because it symbolizes so much. It encapsulates so much of my love for New Japan Pro Wrestling and all that stuff that they gave us during that era. So,
did you just say that everybody has a story?
Everybody has a story.
I think that's what, and I think you said that because, somebody was asking this question. If there's anyone you wish would have won any version of those titles.
Is there anyone who I wish would have won any version of that New Japan title? I wanted Cody to win. I wanted Cody to win that IWGP version 4 during his run. When he was there, when he showed up at Wrestle Kingdom, I don't know which one it was. I want to say 11 or 12. I could be wrong. He was the Ring of Honor World Champion.
Oh, you talking about that? I was talking about the NWA champion when he won the United States.
And the crazy part is, in the early years, who was the NWA champion when I think, and I could be wrong. I could be. Don't quote me on, but I believe it was 2008. It was like Rob Conway. Rob Conway had a run. He had a run in NWA, but that was when NWA was still trying to like be very traditional. They were bucking the system. Like, you couldn't have social media. You couldn't. But they would have their run of the show, and I enjoyed the NWA. That's one of my favorite championships during that era, anyway. But I wish Cody Rhodes would have won version 4. Like I said, he was the Ring of Honor. He was the Ring of Honor champion, and he was on a lot of those shows. I wish I had access to some of those wrestlers. I can go. It's too late. I'm going down a rabbit hole. It's now going to be. I'm going to be looking for Wrestle Kingdom stuff now.
It's two people I kind of wish would have won it. One of them being Prince Devitt, because remember the whole.
He would have been.
He went from face to heel.
Sure.
Sparked the interest for the Bullet Club. You know what I mean? Like, he was
He kind of looks
doing the
kind of.
face paint.
He was doing a lot of Judgment Day stuff. So he was in a lot of purple and black before he left. You ever think about that?
Right.
That's a pretty big one though. I didn't think because you got to think about when Prince Devitt, when he left, like I said, he left the same day AJ Styles came in. He was best of the Super Juniors. You know what I mean?
And he was breaking the mold. They wanted to take him out of that Super Juniors to a different class. But it was still like, oh, do we keep him in this class?
Well, they
I think
did that.
That's what he had to leave.
Yeah, but they did this. They did it with Kenny Omega with no problem. They did it with Will Ospreay. No problem. What would you about to say?
They bulked up a little. They bulked up a little.
Kenny beefed up at first because he was when AJ was in his run, he wasn't there right away, but he wasn't there long. It didn't take him long. He was a cleaner. He was the Bullet Club young boy. Like he was up next, and he was the junior heavyweight champion for a minute. It was back when Kenny was still wearing trunks.
Yep.
Coming out there as a cleaner with that, I don't know if he had like gray hair or silver hair in his head, but yeah, that's probably a good one though. If Prince Devitt would have like if we, to me, Finn Balor and Prince Devitt were two different people. You know what I mean? Maybe not as far as movesets, but as far as presentation. And I'm like, man, can you imagine Finn going back? Like if Finn decided I want my release, I don't want to do WWE, which he probably would have done if Vince was still around. Like eventually he probably would be like, but Vince loved Finn. That's why he let him go to NXT and had that run. I see him going back to New Japan and immediately like, strap's going to Finn. Put it on Prince Devitt.
Yep, he's world champion right away. There you go.
That's an excellent one. Excellent one though. Yeah, Prince Devitt and Cody Rhodes. Definitely, no doubt. I didn't even think about that one. See, that's why I like this show.
And I'll know another person because I'm glad, and this is on my love for Chris Jericho that he was able to get the Intercontinental title. But think about who was the world champion when he was Intercontinental champion.
Who was the world champion? Was it Okada? No, because he was beefing with Okada, wasn't he?
He was beefing with Okada. Wasn't Okada the champion?
I believe
think they could have had a great match for the title, and that's when you could have put both belts on him.
On who?
On Jericho, because
there you go. Come on, man. There you go.
No, hear me out.
You're not about to put
because
you start every argument with hear me out when it comes to Jericho.
Because Okada because think about it, every time Okada won the title back, it felt like a bigger deal.
Of course, you heard what Kevin
Nash said. It got bigger and bigger each time.
Baby faces chase and always make the money.
Yep. Wait a minute, is a new episode out?
I don't know. I was about to ask you guys. I was going to ask you guys tomorrow. I haven't seen one yet.
Does anybody know?
I don't know what day. Who killed WCW episode 3 out yet? There's only 4.
We shall see.
Okay. Yeah. Brother, you say you think it was Wrestle Kingdom 12. But is there anybody else? That's actually a really good question. Outside of a Finn, because I think in New Japan Pro Wrestling has been really, really good about keeping their fingers on the pulse of what's hot right now. Like they're smart. They don't waste any time. They're not saying, oh, we got to build a storyline. We got to make it make sense. They don't care, but they can do that with how the Japanese product is produced though. Like it doesn't have to make sense. They're going to tell you he's here because he's a big star and a big star won a championship. And that's all the explanation you need. Like AJ Styles came in, bam, he wins the championship. I was like, okay. And they tell you why. AJ Styles is one of the biggest stars around the world. That's why he beat him. That's why he came in. And this
is why we're paying him to be here.
Yeah, and that's what he did. He carried the banner. He brought a whole generation of wrestling fans to Japan, including myself. And I never left it. Like it was so many things, great things. Even after he left, I was still rocking and rolling. Of course, now they're in rebuild mode again. You know what I mean? But they've always found a way to bounce back.
They always bounce back. Years. They always.
You talk about 1971, 72. It's 2024.
And they always bounce back, and they bounce back to get your eyes and your attention back. And it's crazy because what a company can say, WWE has its ebbs and flows, but when New Japan they hit it like bam. All right, we're rebuilding completely. WWE just rebuilds for that moment
every time. Every time they have these eras where they like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just get around these young guys and just work and work and work. It happened. You look at Okada.
Let's make it.
I told you guys the other day off the air, but I'm gonna say it on here since we talking Japan. I told you Taiji Ishimori. I think he's up next. I've been watching him, and like I said, he's known as Bone Soldier. Like, he debuted as Bone Soldier. You know what I mean? He was another Bullet Club young boy, and at one point the Bullet Club was mostly, as they say, gaijin. I don't know if that's an offensive term or not. Some people say it is. Some people say it isn't. It's a term for foreigners and Japanese wrestlers.
Yep.
You know
that was
the
whole point of when they were all foreigners.
Some
And it
people say
made
it's offensive, but Gato, the booker of New Japan, always says no, it's not meant to be offensive. But I don't know. But you're right, it was meant to be foreigners. But then what's the first guy that jumped ship? I forgot his name because him and his girlfriend joined Bullet Club, and they were like he was the only Japanese brother in the group. But then eventually Bone Soldier got in, and of course, Gato shows up, and
so why to be in everybody?
Yeah, so and Bullet Club is technically still alive. They got, like I said, I think David Finlay is running the show. I like David Finlay a lot. David Finlay has grown on me. I've always been a fan of Chase Owens.
He's grown on me slowly but surely. The more I see him, the more I'm like, okay.
Like he's turning the corner. Like Chase Owens. He hasn't turned the corner as much as I would like him to, but he's another one. I was like, there it is, Yuji Takahashi. Yes.
Thank you, Justin.
Because he was like a party man. This girl dressed up like a Playboy bunny. But yeah, he was he was the first Japanese guy that was in the Bullet Club. You know what I mean? And
it was such a big deal.
Yeah, so like I said, even when Finn left, AJ came in. When AJ left, Kenny took over. When Kenny left, it was Jay White's turn. And when Jay White left, it's David Finlay's turn. And it may be, pale in comparison, but it's still a staple. You know what I mean? It's still part of their brand.
That you recognize.
Yeah, of course. And they've got it's a lot of young talent in New Jersey. Like I'm watching them now, and I say young talent, like they've been around for a while, but I'm watching them turn from like workers to like, okay, these guys are starting to be like main event players. And I'm kind of excited. Like I really am like I watched Taiji Ishimori, and I was like, yo, he got bigger. He's got new gear. I was like, uh-oh. I think he's ready to be one of those up next kind of guys. And of course, you still got guys like Tetsuya Naito and stuff like that. Of course, guys like Kota Ibushi and them have left, and Okada, huge hit. You know what I mean? And who knows? Okada might go back. I don't know. But, we're not here to get into that. But I'm excited for New Japan. I'm not there yet. I'm not as attached to it right now, but I'm trying to get myself going again because I'm telling you, I see a lot of young talent coming up that are that have been being very great workers, but now they're like being main event players. And I'm like, wait a minute, we might be onto something this time. So,
and I'm
looking forward to it.
I think we were onto something with this show, especially with the title, because all I'm gonna say, if the title didn't get you to thinking, I think everybody be thinking beyond the wrestler when it comes to championship belts, because this version 4 directly has definitely put a stamp in the industry. I think that we'll probably talk about this belt more in a positive light than we will the big gold. We're going to talk about the big gold because it's the big gold. We're going to talk about the wing eagle because it's the wing eagle. But this belt, it was beyond the wrestler. It's literally about the belt.
I'm going to save that graphic on my phone.
Are you really?
That's how I'm dead serious. Like that's going in my I got like a cool photo section in my thing. Like that one's it because it just says it right there.
It is beyond the wrestler.
Beyond the wrestler.
Want to take this time to thank everybody in the comment that stuck with us. The Realness Takeover.
Nope, you messed up. You messed up because I just got a bright idea. You messed up. You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that. I just got a bright idea. You have to do a whole nother series you have to do a whole nother series for Championship Culture. It's got to be a spinoff. You have to do a whole series now called Beyond the Wrestler, and you have to pick certain championships to talk about it. Because I thought about it as you said it, and it just that fast. I'm like, wait a minute. You could say that about the Big Gold, or you could say that about the Big E, like all the legendary titles. Maybe not all of them. The NWA, Don't Glow. I was like, wait a minute, that could be an entire series Beyond the Wrestler.
The ROH,
Ring of Honor World Title. Like that
has a lineage. We got the silver and gold brand. Because remember, it was silver, then gold, and head. Trying to tell you some things.
Just saying. Even the NXT Championship. You heard about 4 sides of the ring. They were arguing about like when Nick Ram started naming all the previous NXT champions, they like compared to he's the worst wrestler compared to everybody. And Mike was like, "No, that's not fair." But he was like, "Well, if we're comparing NXT champions, he is the worst wrestler they've ever had." I was like,
and then when he said something about, well, if they were indie wrestlers and he was next to the line, he was like, "Don't matter, we're comparing champions."
Like, listen, and they were still all NXT. And I thought about it. I was like, "Yo, you think about all the weakest NXT champions? Trick Williams was nowhere near in the ring like levels." And I was like, oh wow. I mean,
he put it in perspective.
And according to Mike, like I said, it's developmental, but you got beyond the wrestler. this different championships, because I was like, certain championships do go beyond the wrestler. This isn't the only one, but it's like a Mount Rushmore of prestigious titles, not just the looks, but the titles themselves. And like, in the WWE is so vast that like the Winged Eagle has its own legacy and the Big Eagle has its own legacy. IWGP version 4, big gold, NWA Gold Dome, and there's a few more you could probably do. So sorry, didn't mean to crack on that can of worms, but now you and Brother Hugh.
But it's not just world titles. It can, think about it. We also have.
That's what I'm saying, though. Think about it. You cracked open a whole another can of worms. The X division would be perfect.
The X division
would be perfect.
The X division. Because and that's some of my favorite belts. And
that's what I'm saying. Because then you can talk about its connection to the Cruiserweight Championship. See? And then you talk about the IWGP Junior Heavyweight. Bro, that's a whole weight class you could talk about. That's right. We went there. Sorry. You guys got to figure it out.
He said, nope, there we go. Look, see? So, hey, Justin.
You tried to end the show 10 minutes ago. It didn't work.
Keep that in mind, Justin. Because we're going to get Justin on the other side of this camera one day. Because he's faithful every Tuesday. He's there and letting us know it must be Tuesday. I think that would be fun to have Justin on the opposite side. Hopefully Hugh heard that. Wait a minute. You got him started. Wow. Now this man is on.
Sorry. I just thought it was funny. It was a hot take to start the show. I was like, wow, that's what we're doing?
So this has got to be Marcus. Marcus said, imagine to talk wrestling every day with him. If you don't know, from 4 sides of the ring, they're all family. Like, no exaggeration.
So they are literally. There's no holds barred.
Yes.
every argument is like no rules.
In that anniversary show, I thought Marcus and Martin was going to get into a fight because they got to the anniversary show, and me and you in the comments egging them on, and you can say certain things to trigger them, and it's very interesting. So the founder, as his brother called him, as Martin called Marcus, the founder of 4 Sides of the Ring, and Martin is the founder of 3 Count Trivia and Opinionated. They got the argument, but they're actual brothers. Like,
so that means the gloves are off. You can say,
yeah.
There's no holds barred. I went back and watched that first show too. I was waiting for the other one to come out, but I was like, I went back and watched it again.
Do you see why Brandy Savage is my favorite?
No, it's listen to me. I went back and I replayed the show. I had all different answers for the second time. Like I had a set of answers the first time I watched the show, and I had a whole different second, and I was like practicing, like making my argument before Nick Ram goes, okay, stop talking, you're done.
All right, you can stop talking now. I'm gonna need you to stop talking.
You're done. That's enough time for you. I was like, okay, I'm ready.
So, Marcus, you had to try to end the show and create a whole new one. You did this to us too. On Big Go versus the World, this is why I say I have a bone to pick with you. Because on Big Go versus the World, you said something that made us want to spin off to another show because we have these. So this is what happens with championship culture, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you might as well tell the world. Might as well tell the world.
Before we started season 2, we had a whole rundown of 25 shows. Certain number was devoted to the realness. That number has increased. Certain number. That number increased by would you say circumstance, I think?
Sure.
I think it just happened. Yeah, it just happened. It was like a natural progression. So, the certain number kind of increased, not a big deal. But some shows got pushed to the side, some shows evolved, and some shows became shorts. But it seems like every time we think that we are almost out of content for, the belts, because I don't want to just be holding the belt every time. I want to have a conversation about them. And then now that we get the things, what did you call them? These sexy graphics, right?
Oh,
now that we're getting stuff like, bear with me, I'm trying to get to one. But I think this is a cool way to have a different discussion when we have stuff like this, because you can see the details on it. Or when you do this, we can have a full-blown conversation with it. So,
and not only that, you talk about the legacy of the titles. Like,
there was no belt in that.
It was an unboxing. I was happy when I saw the show. I was like, oh, this is an early Christmas present. But like I said, we talk about the designs, we talk about the glories, but it's like sometimes it's the legacy, and I'm aware you can't do that with every title, but good gosh, there's a lot of titles you can do that with. And like I said, and it's a different layer to the conversation. So if you, like I said, I forced you guys into a 2-hour show. Usually you guys do an hour 30 minutes. I forced you into a 2-hour show. It's because now there's a brand new concept that I'm like, bro, this has to be done. And once again, it starts with one show, but I'm like, wait a minute, this can't be the only show you're going to do with this concept. There's so much more. There's so much more.
And that's what happened with WCW belts. You said, nope, you're not going to get me. And that's what Big Gold versus the World happened. And I can't thank Marcus from Four Sides of the Ring and Mike from Muffin Off of Mike for joining in on that conversation, because they definitely came with some pew, 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 pew. So it was definitely an interesting conversation that was birthed from just Realness supposed to be talking about his favorite set of belts. Oh, look at him shining up his. If you want to see what he was shining up, please go back to episode 1 of Championship Culture Season 2, where he finished his story about a certain belt. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
All about finishing stories here, telling stories and finishing stories, and every belt having a story.
There you go. So with that being said, before we look what Justin said. Look what Justin said. There we go. Justin, get ready. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
It's funny because as soon as he made the note, I said, man, when he makes the sound effects, everybody is going to know exactly what he's referring to, because everybody's made that pew 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 pew
pew pew. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. Tell the people where they can find you, because they might not know.
You can find me on Twitter and Facebook at Dwayne Allen 24. You can find me on Instagram at TRDA Brand. It's TRDA BRAND. Everywhere else, you can find me at Dwayne Allen 24. So yeah, and also at Wrestling Realm, 2 W's, Wrestling Realm, and on Facebook, Twitter, and of course YouTube.com/Wrestling Realm. In this case, check me out on this episode in the playlist Championship Culture Season 2, and go back and watch Season 1, and go back and watch the bonus episode, and go back and watch all the shows that come after this.
We gotta address that. Woody Guns, it's a family show. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, if you want to see the other Realness takeovers, please watch all of Season 1. He had some great insight for Looks Can Be Deceiving. Trying to remember what was the other one called. Oh man, why am I drawing a blank? Looks Can Be Deceiving, and that was one of my favorite shows that we did. His WCW belts. He tried to change my mind about WCW, and if you watch it, he probably will change your mind too. Big Gold versus the World. He finished the story.
Didn't have a lot of love for WCW championships. That's all I'm saying.
Tag team titles we talked about. Yep. But I'm gonna leave it up to you. Please follow us on all social media platforms at any time. And as you can see from tonight, we definitely engage in the conversation. And
here it goes again.
Here we go. What does it say? Let's see what it says.
What does it say? This says until next time. Listen.
All right.
Jeez. It wasn't me. I'm telling you all, it was not me. We had
a whole show for how many weeks now, and it was nothing happening. You come on the show and this happens. Thanks, Realness.
Bro, listen to me. Something's going on. Like I said, Uncle Howdy showed up. The internet went out today. They almost tried to kick me off this show. It's a lot going on.
I got kicked off. All I'm saying
is they keep trying to get me involved, and it's not me. It's not me. It's not me. Well, listen to me. It's all I can keep saying is it's not me. But like I said, it's like freaking Joe Hendry. If you speak of his name, he will appear.
Now you got to do it right. H to the A to the S to the T to the H to the E to the 3 to the R to the D.
Because he was offended you didn't do it right earlier.
Yeah, I had to play it back. But please follow us on all social. I'm trying to get us out of here. But you see, Realness with a keep going. He's having too much fun.
It's 10:20 right now on the East Coast, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna go right into
much fun.
Welcome to the Wrestling Realm Now podcast. We're just gonna jump right into it.
Oh, I need a little.
There you go. Just go ahead and move.
No, we can't fight. We gotta do that.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes. That's all they get. If you want to see that, tune in tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. for the flagship show of the Wrestling Now podcast, where you will catch the Realness in the driver's seat. Hollywood, Brian H. Porters, as Matt the Third, Brother Hugh, and of course the guy. But check us out every Tuesday on Championship Culture. One, you never know if we're gonna have a special guest. You don't know if it's going to be recorded, but I guarantee you, you will get some shenanigans. It will be fun. It'll be some education. And guess what? You always find out that every belt has a story, and I can't wait to hear yours.